But yeah, so Elayne says that I'm gonna use what freedom I have before tomorrow to have some wine, whatever, doesn't matter. And she does some of the Aiel signing, and...
Tickle, tickle! Tickle, tickle!
Oh my.
Hey, this is the Sword and the Pen Reflections. It is my casual alternative to that channel. For those of you who are new, I am a developmental book editor. My job is to help authors to improve their storytelling, usually around the first draft, because sometimes I might say, this character's arc sucks and we need to start it all over again. But I don't say it like that. I give them explanations for why it's not working. And they're free to take my advice or not. On this channel, I like to take source material and their adaptations and compare the two to see which one is doing a better job at telling a great story, and then discuss why. In the case of Wheel of Time, I didn't want any preconceived bias about what I expected to see in the adaptation, so I am reading the series for the very first time at the same time that I'm watching the show. I'm currently on book 6, and it's been almost a year since I was at the stage in the story where we are in the show. But I did go back and refresh my memory. At this point in my videos, I usually say we are on Wheel of Time, Season 3, Episode 1, and its corresponding chapters, which are... They are from all over the place, though, so I'm not going to be able to really do that for this one. We've got the very first scene feels like a combination of a scene that takes place, I believe, in books 3 and then in book 4. One of them happens off page and the other one happens on page, but from a perspective that's not present for all of it. But either way, that's just with the White Tower. The stuff with the kids is more made up because they have not all been together like this in Tar Valon or in Tyr or anywhere. They pretty much are scattered all over the place, coming together in various points of the story and then going off in their own directions again. So it's hard to say exactly where we are at this point, and I think it'll be easier to orient, I hope, when we get to episode 2, and then I can say, okay, I think this character is at this stage and this character is at this stage. But anyway, before we dive into it, please consider giving me a like, subscribe, or a comment. It really helps these videos with the algorithm, and it's free. Or if you are feeling generous and you have the means, check out my Patreon, Ko-fi, or hit the money heart thanks button down below. You can become a subscriber or you can leave a one-time tip. Even just $1 will go a long way with me. So anyway, guess that's it. Here we go. So the first few seconds of this episode are an establishing scene. We need to know where we are, what the situation is, and who are the most important players. We've got Siuan up in the White Tower, so we're in Tar Valon. And then down in the street, looking up at the tower, we can see that Moiraine and Lan are here as well. We know that something important is about to happen because Leanne comes in and tells Siuan it's time. And then down in the street, we have Lan assuring Moiraine that Siuan's gonna be okay. No problem with this scene except for Moraine's response to Lan, who is trying to console her. She says, today isn't about her. The way that Moiraine brushes off Lan so much, even in the smallest ways, it makes her very unlikable. We're in the 3rd season at this point, and they just went through a big trial where she had to come back to him humbled. At least that was what the intention was. That's not what actually happened, but that's what I believe the intention of her having her powers taken away and then having to thank Lan and tell him that he's better than her. I would expect to see a change in her behavior even on the micro level at this point, and this is not what we see here. Even just a small progression would be good. But it's just the first scene and the first episode, maybe it gets better. But this is supposed to take place at least a month after the events at the end of season 2. First, we have Liandrin walking through a hall, and she's stopped by 3 red sisters who tell her that the Amyrlin has called a sitting in the Great Hall, and you are to come and take the floor. Liandrin says, good, there's a few things that I have to say in front of everybody, I guess. And the red sisters assure her that they are with her no matter what the charges. Then we cut to Verrin, Adelaise, and Naomi walking down a separate hall, and Naomi asks, where are we going and why? And Verrin says, always prepare for the worst, that way all your surprises are pleasant ones. No complaints, except that this is a very dialogue-driven script, and so I would have tried to find an opportunity here to do as little telling us what is going to happen or what we should be looking for in our characters and try to just show it. You could also vary up some of the action a bit here. So instead of having characters walking down halls in the White Tower, I would have maybe had Liandrin, and her encounter can go basically as it does. But with Verrin, Adelace, and Naomi, maybe Adelace and Naomi are hanging out in a library somewhere, since that's what the Brown Aja like to do, is read and study and whatnot. And I would have had Verrin come in and whisper to them, "You need to come with me. Say nothing, just follow me." And then have Adelace and Naomi look at each other confused, but sort of recognizing that this is a big deal, and then get up and go. You don't have to say a word on their part. We understand that they don't know where they're going or why, but they understand that it's very important and that this is urgent, secretive business. Little changes like that make a big difference, because instead of the audience having to listen with our ears in order to hear what the situation is, we can experience it with them. If we start out with Naomi and Adelaide sitting in the library, and suddenly their peace and the stability of their situation is broken by Verrin coming in and there being urgency and secrecy in what she has to say to them, we feel that with her. We feel that intrusion into their peace, and we understand that this is something important. So I'm going to try not to do this with every single scene going forward, but this is the kind of edit that I would give to somebody on a first draft. Like, look, I like what you have these characters representing in your story, but there's a different way to execute it that is a bit more immersive for your audience. Then we cut to Alanna, who is approached by Maxim and Yvonne right outside of the Great Hall, and Maxim expresses concern for her safety. Like, what if Liandrin has allies hidden throughout the tower? That is his concern. Alanna reminds him that men are not allowed inside of the tower. I guess he forgot, even though he has lived there most of his life. His concern that Liandrin could have allies throughout the tower is not unfounded. I mean, he is supposed to think about what could be the biggest danger to my Aes Sedai. And this would be something that Alanna, as a warrior Aja, part of the Green Aja, she should also be aware of this concern. So Alanna was certain that Liandrin's only allies could only possibly be in the Reds. She assures Maxim that don't worry, the Amyrlin seat has a plan for keeping the Reds out of the hall, and then we get the reveal of what that plan is. I would assume that this is something that she told to her warders in advance. I mean, she knew about what was going on in advance. It didn't seem like something that, whatever, it's okay. I almost would have liked if just the three of them exchange looks. And again, I know that that's something that I resort to a lot, but there's so much talking in this show, and actors can act. So why not let them convey information to the audience with their bodies, as opposed to always having to do it with the dialogue? It's also a bit redundant that she tells us, don't worry, the Amyrlin seat has a plan, and then literally in the next segment of dialogue, we get the reveal of what that plan is. So you could probably cut the reveal of there is a plan and just go immediately to this is what the plan is. I do have to note that it's a little bit funny that she's so confidently assuring her warders, who are in charge of security, that don't worry, we are ready. And then they are so not ready. You should always plan for the worst case scenario. I mean, this is something that a warrior Aja would, I think, be aware of, especially if her job is considering protecting the tower and the other Aes Sedai. If her warders are worried that there could be other enemies that might somehow get into the hall, she should have had a contingency plan for that scenario. Unless she's just not that strategic of a warrior. Like, maybe she's just a foot soldier. But she's in the hall, so she's also a sitter, because only the sitters are allowed, along with Siuan, Leanne, the witness who's going to come out, and Liandrin. I don't know. So Liandrin and company get to Leanne at the door to the hall, and she says, Siuan has said that this whole meeting is sealed, so only sitters can come in, and the Red Aes Sedai can't. And they're like, what? You can't exclude us? And she says, well, actually we can, because according to tradition, you only need 11. So if they have 11 other sitters, then the Red Aja don't need to be there at all. It is a little unusual that she says Liandrin Sedai will speak for the Reds, but you will not hear her. I mean, if she's speaking on behalf of the Reds, I don't know. Just seems a little odd. I'm being nitpicky, though. It's not bad. I am going to comment, though, on some of these Aes Sedai costumes. I'm loving them. They are so well crafted. I don't think that the average viewer would understand the kind of detail and work that is involved in constructing some of these silhouettes, but they are very nice. This took a lot of work for each one of these Aes Sedai ladies, so I do love that Alanna gives this smug grin to Liandrin as she passes. Again, though, is Alanna a sitter? I didn't think she was in season 1. Maybe she's been promoted. Now, before I forget it, I do want to mention this note that I do not for a second believe that all of the Aes Sedai out in the hall wouldn't bust down those doors as soon as they hear something going on inside the hall. So I probably would have, if I was one of the Black Ajah in the hall and Liandrin calls us to action, I would have sealed the door somehow, like magically, so they can't unseal it. I don't know. So Siuan goes, do you know why I've called you here today? And Liandrin goes, well, I assume it's to silence me. And she immediately turns the tables on Siuan, which I have to applaud Liandrin is a very good strategy.
Offense is the best defense.
If you can put your opponent on defense, they're going to be thinking more about saving their own butts as opposed to coming after you for what you've done wrong. So, not bad.
I accuse you, Mother, of breaking Tower custom and law.
Then continue, daughter, and I will answer. An Aes Sedai cannot lie.
I can't lie!
She's saying this to remind the audience that, by the way, Aes Sedai cannot lie, because that's going to be an important factor in the moments to come. But at this point, we're in season 3, and we've heard it all throughout season 1 and 2. You don't need this here. There is nobody stepping into season 3 who has not seen seasons 1 and 2. I guarantee it. I've never understood why writers do that in the beginning chapters of their sequel books. Nobody starts at book 6. They start with 1. To me, it's so redundant. You are writing literally for the one person out of 10,000 that is going to start your series in the middle as opposed to the beginning. Liandrin relays the events of the previous season, saying that a month ago, Mother called 13 of us, for some apparent reason, to Cairhien. And I have to ask myself, why did she call them all? Like, what excuse did she give them?
I'm taking the day off. Now get dressed and come on over.
And then, just so happens there's an attack. Oh, maybe that distracted everybody. Nobody thought to go, hey, we all survived this attack by the Forsaken on Cairhien. Why did you want us here anyway? What was the point? Like, did we have something we were supposed to do? I don't like Liandrin's dress. I like the construction of it, but dyed prints and paints like this, especially on a dress, I think this is dye. It never looks as good as something that is woven or like a brocade or I don't know how to say it, jacquard, whatever. You get what I mean.
Yeah, I've heard it both ways.
What other ways have you heard it?
Just look at this.
Today we're going to work with jacquard inkjet printing products.
So this is a jacquard, really, really beautiful.
A jacquard woven is a specific type of weave that is created on a jacquard loom.
Suck it. You suck it. Suck it.
Seems like a less effort way to get texture, but otherwise, I like the silhouette. She accuses Siuan of meeting with Moiraine, who she had banished from the tower, which I don't see why that's a problem, because the condition of the banishment was, you're banished until I say you're not. So she could have been there to unbanish her, right? But the next accusation is good. She says she also met secretly with a young man who could channel, Rand al'Thor, who has declared himself the Dragon Reborn. And I just have to point out, why is Verrin not in hot water too? In the last season, she tricked Leanne into giving up her spot, keeping Rand shielded. I would think that Siuan and Leanne would be really pissed off at her for helping Rand escape. Siuan then says that if what you've said is true, then the tower would have to depose me. But I know something that nobody else in this tower knows, and that's that you can lie. You can break the 3 oaths. You are a dark friend, and everybody's scandalized by this. I do have to say this. This always bugs me. Debate is very much a point-by-point attack and response. Liandrin made the point that you met with Moiraine, who's banished, which I don't see there's no defense presented regarding that, and says that you secretly met with Randall Thor, who can channel, and you let him go, even though it is your duty to, if he is able to channel, you have to still him or shield him or whatever it is that they have to do. Like, that's what our job as the White Tower is to do if we find a man who can channel. And the defense that Siuan is about to present has absolutely nothing to do with those 2 points. All she does is say, well, you are a dark friend. You can lie. But nothing she says after this is proof that she can lie. What she does present proves that she's not a nice person, possibly not a good person, but that's not proof that she is able to break the 3 oaths. One of these yellow sitters looks like she's just so thrilled to be on the set. Like, she's having a great time, this actress. So Leanne calls in Nynaeve as a witness and says, here is our proof. You kidnapped her and sold her to the Shan-Chan. I don't think that is necessarily breaking the 3 oaths, is it? Is there an oath that says you cannot mistreat one of the Aes Sedai? Is that an oath? I don't know, actually. What are the 3 oaths? Is there one that says you couldn't do this? Like, that would be proof that you can break the 3 oaths. I also don't see why Nynaeve would be considered a super reliable witness, because she hasn't taken the 3 oaths. And if the argument is, well, if you've gone through the arches and you've become an accepted, that is when you take the vows. We never saw that. Maybe it's supposed to make her like, oh, she's more reliable. Like, we definitely know she's going to be loyal to the light and to the towers if she goes through the arches. Is that it? I'm not sure what the show is trying to say here, but it's not the way that it is in the book. The arches are essentially a test of your character. And from what I remember of the tests that we did see in the book, there was always a test that tested your willingness to give up something that's really important to you for the betterment of the tower. But in the show, we didn't see that with Nynaeve, so... But yeah, I'm just not sure why they would take the word of Nynaeve over the word of Liandrin, somebody who, as far as they know, has taken the 3 oaths versus somebody who hasn't. I mean, this would be a perfect opportunity for more witnesses to be brought forward, because the likelihood of having multiple dark friends plotting against one Aes Sedai like this would be less likely. Like, get somebody who the White Tower would say, like, these people have no connection, but they're giving us the same story. But maybe I've watched too many episodes of Law & Order. Hello, this is the Sword and the Pen from the future or the past, whatever. Just wanted to let you know that if you want to see the full breakdown of the fight that's about to happen, just click the video in the upper right-hand corner there. But if you don't want to see that, that's fine. I get a bit obsessive. Otherwise, I'm just gonna summarize the events, the major points of the battle that take place, but won't really be critiquing it. Then we'll get right back on track with the regular critique. Thank you. Have a nice day. This is gonna be weird. Liandrin attacks Siuan. Siuan is defended by Alanna and Leanne. Then, while Liandrin is being suspended in the air and informed by Siuan that you're gonna be tried and stilled, and then you're gonna tell us all the Black Aja that are working with you before we kill you, Liandrin's like, all right, everybody, come to my defenses now! And suddenly, 4 other seated Aja descend from their pedestals. Well, first, some of them throw attacks, and then some other ones throw attacks, and you've got Alanna and Leanne are able to defend Siuan. Then the 4 of them go to the center, turn, and face all the other seated Aja in that room. And they kick everybody's asses. Everybody's. You've got blasts of power being thrown left and right all over the place. And they eventually set Liandrin free, and then she links with the 3 remaining Aja that are with her, the 3 Black Aja sisters, whatever, and is able to send a blast towards Siuan, and Leanne and Alanna defend her with their bodies, not with the power, which was odd, and they all get blasted into the throne. In the meantime, out in the hall, all the other Aes Sedai that were in the hall have vanished, leaving just the warders. And you've got the 3 red going like, well, first of all, the warders are trying to get into the hall. And this is why I thought one of these Black Aja should have sealed the door from the inside. And that's why the warders aren't able to get in. Because otherwise, I was like, why doesn't some of the Aes Sedai outside just blast the doors open? Well, now we know why, because none of them are there. Somebody told them to scram, so they're gone, and it's just the warders. And then those 3 reds from earlier show up again. And they're like, we need to get in there. And the warders are like, no, we're not letting you through. And they apparently have a face-off just sitting there staring at each other for a while, because nothing really happens until suddenly this green and yellow shows up, and the green has 2 warders with her, and this green is a very cute Aes Sedai, like, she's how I imagined all the Aes Sedai looking, because they were all supposed to be young, and like, as in, they don't look older than 35. And she blasts one of the reds away, and then the 3rd red disappears. We don't know where she goes. She literally just is no longer in the fight. The warders think that she's there to help, but turns out she's not. And so she blasts an attack at all of them. And it turns out the red, the one remaining red, again, I don't know where the other one went, shields all of them. So now she, as a red, is defending the men, which I kind of liked. And she kills the green Ajagal's 2 warders. And then there's a moment where she kind of savors their death, and she's like, oh my gosh, it's so good. And the warders realize, oh my gosh, she's Black Aja too. So now we're left understanding that there's going to be a battle here between this green and yellow and this red, and then all these warders. By the time Liandrin is set free from inside and they're making their escape, we come out here and all the warders are down, and this red is down as well, like dead. We don't know where she is. She's dead. And the green and yellow are still there and join up with Liandrin and her posse. And while this is happening, we have Verrin and Adelaide and Naomi go into this secret vault of this whatever, where all these things are there. We see several items that I know from reading the books are going to be very important coming up. And it also kind of indicates that, well, we're going to have some events happen here that in the books happen elsewhere. So I'm curious to see how they're going to pull this off. I don't think it's going to be that hard to do. I actually think this is one of the fixes. If you're like, okay, well, for some reason we can't go to tier first, we'll just do it here. I mean, I could believe these items would be here. But turns out Naomi was a bad guy all along, and she does a little reveal before she blasts the 2 sisters. She goes, thank goodness, I don't need to put up with your bullshit anymore. And then she attacks both of them. But Verrin is able to cut off half of the attack. She's attacking their brains, I guess. And she sees that Adelaide just collapses, and then she herself just kind of fake collapses. And then later and then Naomi grabs items out of this repository and scrams. And later we see that Verrin is holding her sister Adelaide, and Adelaide goes, who are you? So her brain's been scrambled. But it was smart of Verrin to fake her falling over and whatnot. But anyway, so after everybody who's in the hall is standing up because they were just knocked into the throne and unconscious or dazed anyway, they're getting up and like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? Even Alana is saying, I can't believe that so many have turned to the dark. Like, wow. And Siuan looks about, sees that there are a couple other sisters still standing and, or getting to their feet at least. And she goes, oh my gosh, go after them, split up. We can't let them leave this city. Then we cut to the street. Naomi comes out of an alley and joins up with the others. And we see that apparently this was all part of the plan. So Liandrin somehow knew that Verrin was going to take Naomi to this secret place to defend these items. I don't know why they couldn't have stood guard in just the hall and she didn't have to reveal where the items were. But anyway, they went in there. This was part of the plan. Liandrin goes, did you find the thing? And she goes, yeah, I got the thing and, whatever else I could carry. I think they're talking about the bracelet and the collar because they want to collar Rand. So the Black Aja can have Rand and he will be their weapon, because if he's collared like a Damane, they can force him to do whatever they want. So they've joined up, they're walking out, and Alana has somehow gotten ahead of them with her 2 warders. And now we've got 7 Aes Sedai who just kick the asses of, is it 10 others or not? Even if it's just 9 others, they just kicked everybody's asses. And now they're going to face off with Alana. If you want to see the details of that fight, go ahead and see that other video, but there's a lot of conveniences that happen in here. You even have times where there's a warder fighting one Aes Sedai, and then another Aes Sedai comes up and is fighting his sword, but not him. So you got like two Aes Sedai, I don't know, on his sword. It's weird. Anyway, so Liandrin ends up getting stabbed through the chest by the two warders, but then she is healed by one of the yellows, and then she blasts Alanna off to the side, and they're about to leave. All the Black Odds are like, all right, we won, we're out of here. So they're walking out, but right before they go out, Alanna's like, I'm going to take out Alanna, and because Alanna's laying there unconscious. So Liandrin levitates a sword. I don't know why she didn't just use a slicer, whatever. I'm like, use your powers. She levitates a sword and hurls it towards Alanna, but the two warders get up and do their duty. Maxim throws himself on top of Alanna, and Yvonne throws himself in front of the blade, and he dies. And then with Siuan, we see that she also was out running around the city looking for people, and she got approached by two Black Aja, and they attack Siuan. They manage to shield her, but Siuan's able to like practically break out of it. Like they are struggling to hold on to her. So one of them is like, we're not going to be able to hold her, screw whatever Liandrin wants. We just got to, do what we can. And so she makes a bell tower fall towards Siuan. But before the rocks can crush her, they are suspended in midair. And then you hear one of the evil ones go, oh my gosh, how is she doing it? And the other one going, she can't, she's still shielded. And then you see Siuan bust out of her shield and kill those two. And then she moves over and the rocks fall behind her and she sees who was suspending them. It was Moiraine. So Moiraine had come to her rescue. Now this is a big problem because if Siuan sees that Moiraine is here, she knows that the dragon is here in the city, and she never looks for Moiraine. She goes out looking for Elayne and Nynaeve, right? Because, well, she knew at the very least Nynaeve was in town because she didn't look surprised, first of all, when she saw them, but she had called Nynaeve to the tower. But she didn't know that Moiraine was in town, or at least didn't think that she would see her. And if she did, she would have gone after her. Definitely, because she wanted to cage the dragon. Like that, she tried to capture the dragon because she's convinced that's the right thing to do. And now here's Moiraine, who was last seen leaving with the dragon. So why doesn't she go looking for the dragon after this point? Like, these are errors that I would call out to a writer in like a first draft, and we would figure out a way to make this not happen. I probably would not have had Siuan leave the tower. Let her be so injured and there's no yellow to heal her, but she's able to tell the others to go and catch them. And somebody has to go find a yellow to come and heal her. And by the time she's up and able to do anything, we've already had Alanna doing her fight and whatever. It's spoiled by Siuan knowing that the dragon is in town and she does nothing. But her and Moiraine seeing each other, the two of them seeing each other, amounts to nothing as well. She doesn't go looking for Moiraine. They just stare at each other. And I do have to appreciate that they had silence. There was no talking, because it seems like they really favor the telling in this. There was no talking, so I liked that. And we knew as the audience what was going on in their heads, but it amounts to nothing. We didn't see either of them attempting to communicate with each other any later or anything coming from this moment. So I don't get it. Anyway, moving on. Did I miss anything? I covered so much in that super long review. Oh yeah, and Lan went up to the tower to pick up Nynaeve off of the floor. Before we continue, please like, subscribe, and comment, even if it's just with an emoji. It's a free way for you to support the channel, and for me, it might bring in some money from all the commercials they keep putting on my videos. Or if you're feeling super generous, check out my Patreon or Ko-fi. I've got links in the description. Or you can hit the money heart thanks button down below. Now, let's get back to it. In the next scene, we have Elayne, Perrin, Mat, Rand, and Nynaeve having a chat in what looks like, I don't know, a hotel room? No, it's a hotel bar. So, okay, they're somewhere in a hotel. And they're definitely in Tar Valon, and Egwene is talking about how, like, we should have been there to defend you, Nynaeve. Who cares that me and Elayne don't have Aes Sedai rings? You know, these are stupid rules. So this isn't the worst. Like, that's good. That's good. They're not telling us a lot. She's complaining about what had just happened and giving us a bit of info about what the rules are of the tower, that for some reason they would not have been allowed to go in there and testify or be with Nynaeve simply because they do not have accepted rings. I'm not sure why that is. I don't think anything like this has really happened yet, so I can't imagine that it has nothing like this has needed to come up. So then we get some telling with a little bit of showing in the middle of the telling.
What now?
Moiraine wants me to go to Tyr.
Why Tyr? One of the most powerful Sa'angrealas there. It's a sword. Kalendor.
Manchima y Sande Manchima.
That was the moment of showing without telling. He suddenly starts speaking in a foreign language, which we did see him do briefly at the finale of the previous season. And this is a thing going forward. So I like that they didn't explain it. They just, like, we all know that this is a thing that he's been doing since then. So that's good. The thing that I don't like is they're telling us about this sword and how Moiraine wants them to go there. If that's where she wanted them to go, why aren't they there? Was it so important that they get Nynaeve to the White Tower to testify against Liandrin that they took the whole gang there? It's a little silly. So they obviously haven't been listening to what Moiraine is saying, which in the book, this is about the time when Rand starts being very resistant to taking any advice from Moiraine, but there weren't a whole lot of times in the show where we see her giving them orders and they following it. The only thing that we saw was her saying, look, we need to go to the Eye of the World. And by the way, whoever goes there and isn't the dragon, you're going to die. But that was a choice she left up to them. I mean, she's like, basically, you don't have a choice, but you do have a choice because Matt didn't go there. So it's weak. But they're telling us all this information. I kind of maybe would have liked to have seen them, I don't know, on the boat or something or somewhere else. And we've got Rand and Loial and maybe Egwene looking through this book like they have Rand and Loial doing later on. And he's the one who hears about this sword and wants to go and get it. Because in the book, Moiraine does not want him to go and get the sword. She thinks that you're going to be forcing prophecy this way, and that's no way to prove that you're the dragon. Like, that's even though in the show, that's exactly what she did in the finale of the last book, or of the last season. It never happened that way in the books. But, oh my gosh, comparing this to the books is so... There's no point to that. It's so different. But okay, I'm going to give the show a chance and see if they can somehow steer it closer to the books. But there are things that happen in the books, and it helps support what we expect of the kids and of the other characters. And here, that's not what has been set up. And so they've had to come up with other ways to get the kids to rebel against certain things, and it feels contrived. And anyway, all right. I mean, at this point, basically his army was kind of starting to assemble, except it was more like fanatics who were like, oh my gosh, it's the Dragon Reborn, were flocking towards him. But then they were getting killed off by Trollocs and other creatures that were attacking them. So anyway, no point in talking about the books because they're not happening here. So Moiraine says that, why do we need this sword? It can, defeat the Dark One? And Rand is like, I don't know, prophecy is like this. Now that's book accurate, because the prophecies will say certain things, and then some of them are kind of fulfilled, at least as far as I've gotten. So that's accurate. But Perrin wants to just go somewhere where nobody's heard of the dragon. I mean, they are in the worst place they could possibly be if they're trying to lay low and not be discovered by the Aes Sedai. I mean, Tar Valon is so well controlled by the Aes Sedai, which Moiraine is going to explain later on, that this is the last place she should have taken them. This is the last place they should have wanted to go. Remember, Rand does not want to be found by the Aes Sedai because he knows they want to cage him. That's what they tried to do, and they had to call on Lanfear for help to get out of that situation. So why are they here? Why is the whole gang here? Send Nynaeve by herself. And yeah, Egwene ends this conversation by saying, look, there's nowhere where we can hide that the dragon hasn't been heard of, that this is the last place that they should be. And so she's like, so wherever we go, we're sticking together, all of us. And Nynaeve agrees, like, yeah, all of us. And that's when Elayne comes in and says, Moiraine has to talk to us.
The city is not safe.
You always know everything.
Obviously.
No kidding. Not only is this where all the Aes Sedai are, and you're trying to hide from the Aes Sedai, like, this is the place they have the most control, but there was just an attack by the Black Aja. did just happen. I mean, even if it was supposed to be like a week ago, why are they still here? But yeah, so Moiraine proceeds to tell them all the reasons why they shouldn't be here in the first place. I mean, they shouldn't be there for 2 reasons, but she goes into it even further. She just lays it out. She's like, I know you're not going to listen to anything that I have to say. Well, they obviously did because they are here. They are here in the place where Rand would be furthest from by choice. So somebody's been following her instructions because she's the one who wanted to bring Nynaeve here. I guarantee it. And she's like, just remember, if you go out, the person who shines your shoes is going to tell their friend, who's going to tell some person, who's going to tell some person, and they're going to report directly to the Red Aes Sedai. Like, they're going to tell the Reds. Now, at first, Mat and Perrin look kind of like nervous. And Moiraine goes on telling the Aiel, like, you need to cover your hair and leave your weapons here. Do not be seen. Because if you guys are here, they're going to know that the dragon is here. They know that the dragon is there already because Siuan saw Moiraine. But this, as the show is saying, is going to, like, really give it away. And yeah, and then she leaves them with, we sail at dawn for Tyr. To go get the sword, obviously. And Rand asks where she's going, and she's like, into the city. Again, of course, dodging. Very annoying, which is fine. That's fine, whatever. And I do like that Loyal immediately like, why is it always at dawn? Why couldn't it be after a hearty breakfast? At least they're being good with Loyal. They just aren't giving him anything like meaningful to do in the story. He's actually got a purpose in the books. He's the only one who can like navigate the ways and get them in. Like he's able to find where the key is. But now the ways only operate by Aes Sedai, which makes no sense because the Aes Sedai didn't build these. The builders did. As in oh my gosh, what is Loyal part of? They call him Builder, but I forgot the name. But then Mat goes, yeah, I'd like to stay and chat about that, but dude, I've been cooped up on a boat for a month and I'm not gonna stay here. So, hey, Rand, Perrin, let's go for one more hurrah. And the boys are like, yeah, okay. And they go with him. These kids are so stupid. And Moiraine is so stupid for bringing them here. Whoever's idea it was to be here, this is like the dumbest place you could be. But I will say, I do love this set. Like, I want to live in this place, or at least vacation there. It's probably really drafty in winter, if they get winters. Dude, and if they get summers, it must be really hot. But yeah, so what do? Moiraine just warned them that the Aiel are going to be very recognizable. And the way that whole speech of hers was formatted was, you need to cover your hair and leave your weapons here. Because if word reaches the tower that the dragon, like definitely the tower is looking for the dragon. And it kind of hinted that if they know you're here, they'll know the dragon is here, which they already know because Moiraine. But so what happens immediately, Rand and Perrin and Mat are taking off to go get drunk, which is fine. But the Aiel follow immediately after, and they have not left their weapons behind, and they have not covered their hair. I mean, just putting it up like this does not hide the fact that your hair is red. I mean, one of them has her, what is this, like a veil type thing? It's like back here. Like all her hair is out, and like they're so obviously Aiel. And this would be a place where people would know what they look like because just 20 years ago, there was a huge ass battle, like the last one with the Aiel, up on Dragonmount, which you can see right next to Tar Valon. Like they are there at the base of Dragonmount where the final battle was, where Rand was born up on the slopes of Mount Doom. Dragonmount. And remember, when Rand was at Cairhien, much further away, all somebody had to do was look at him and see his hair and go, oh my gosh, the Aiel, they've breached the wall, like they're here. These Aiel are stupid, the boys are stupid, the girls are stupid, and Moiraine is stupid. They're all acting stupid. My critique to the first draft of this, if it was the first draft, would be they cannot be in Tar Valon for any of it. Maybe like a distant town, like where they know Tar Valon is like just over there. Maybe they can even see it in the distance, but definitely not in the middle of Tar Valon. This is like the worst place for the dragon to be, let alone to be out, not in disguise, with 3 women who are distinctly Aiel. Anyway, Rand turns to the 3 women and is like, I don't want you to follow me anymore. And they're like, our duty is to protect the Karkarn. And he's like, well, as your Karkarn, I'm ordering you not to follow me. And that's when Aviendha is like, you have not earned that title yet. You have not gone to Roidion, where he has to face a test. And Rand goes, you still haven't told me what that is. They are telling us about conversations that these two people have had that were very important, and it would have been good to see those. Instead, we're being told that this is something they've been talking about for a while. This is just a very... the interesting stuff happened off screen, and we're just being told about it here. Again, more telling. He says, you haven't told me what the trial of Radion is because it's been a month and you still just won't talk to me. All you do is stare at me and roll your eyes at me. So what's up? And she says, I've been measuring the kind of man you are. Hundreds of thousands of our people are waiting for the Karakarn. And to think that it might be you. She goes, you might look like an Aiel, but you are a wetlander through and through. Like, this is actually exactly how she is in the book. She would criticize everything about him and, like, anything that she can find to pick at him. And we later discover that this, and actually it's not even discover, you really start to pick up on it pretty quickly, but she does this because she is attracted to him. But she's close friends with Elayne, and she knows Elayne and Rand are in love. She doesn't want to hurt Elayne, but she's drawn to Rand. She's like following the bro code, but for her sister, her, like, you know, sworn sister.
And I can't break the bonds of sisterhood.
Like, she would do anything for Elayne, and she knows, like, the worst thing I could do is sleep with her boyfriend. So that's why she's insulting him, trying to keep him at a distance. And so I could be fine with this exactly as it is. But it's what happens later with Elayne that ruins this. I wonder if they're gonna switch it up, if they're gonna say that Elayne is the one who doesn't want to get with Rand because Aviendha, I don't know. Anyway, so she goes, yeah, whatever you may be, like, even if you are Aiel, you have no feeling for us. You are a wetlander through and through. And then she walks off. So I guess they weren't all that stubborn following him and to protect him, because all he had to do was turn and talk to them, and she could say what she had to say, and then they leave. Okay. I do think that I've caught on to Nynaeve wearing her dresses all the way up to her neck. I actually approve of this. She's very modest in the books. And then after she falls for Lan and they go to Tanchico and she has to change her attire, she suddenly starts kind of enjoying dressing in slinky, sexy things. And she's like, I wonder if Lan would like this. I hope that they do that, because that was very charming. Like, one of the few charming things about Nynaeve was that you could see her kind of starting to, like, want to be sexy for him. So I hope they do that. Okay, for some reason my camera cut out and it didn't capture me reacting to this next scene, but we've got Egwene, Elayne, and Nynaeve sitting at a table in that room that they were in earlier. And Egwene is telling the others that she and Rand are back together, and it seems like everything's back to the way it was in the Two Rivers, but it's not really the same. Every time he touches me, I think of, and then she is unable to finish the sentence. Elayne is like, Rena. She obviously has PTSD here, and she puts on a very nice performance, the actress does. Nynaeve and Elayne are very comforting. The problem I have with this is that this is just the girls sitting around talking about the way things are, something that we could show by having Egwene flinch away from Rand's touch. They could have done that in the previous scene very easily. Something. You don't need to have everybody sit around and talking about this, especially when later on in this episode, we're going to see exactly that happen. We're going to see him try to touch her, and she gets a flash of Rena strangling her and backs up. But of course, then they have her touching, like him touching her again, and it doesn't make any difference. So it's a nice, tender moment. And like I said, it's good to have the ladies sitting here talking and bonding together, but they're not bonding over the present. This is a very weird conversation for them to have. And I thought that they've all been on the same boat together for the last month. So if somebody were to have handed this script to me and have said, okay, touching nothing that happens before this, how would you bring these characters closer to who they are in the books? I would have Egwene asking Nynaeve what it was like in the tower, and then we see this curiosity of hers, a sudden re-spark of interest in wanting to go and learn to be an Aes Sedai. This is a major driving factor for her in the books, is that she wants to learn. She's not exactly power hungry, but knowledge hungry. And a little power hungry too. But the realization could have been that she didn't really think about it before, but now that they're here, looking up at the tower, she just wants to go in there so bad because she remembers what it was like to be able to learn so much. You can still have this little bit about, things are tough with Rand. This scene should not only serve the purpose of telling us how Egwene feels when Rand touches her. And that was literally the entire point of this scene. Like I said, well performed, but I still don't like the purpose of it. Let's see these characters discuss their present situation, the thoughts that are going on in their heads now, things that would be hard to translate to screen. Also, why do they have to just be sitting at this table? I mean, the guys got to go somewhere else. Maybe they're shopping and Egwene is picking up a book about channeling, something. Maybe it could be a book about the Sword of Kalendor. That could be a way to introduce that. And then they can remember, wait, didn't we learn about this when we were in Aes Sedai school? I don't know. Of course, they would have had to have shown that while they were in school in the previous season, but whatever. Moving on.
All right, you may not know this, given that you've got your dragon head up your dragon ass, but I blew the horn of Valir.
Oh my gosh. Who wrote this scene? Did the person who wrote this scene not write the scene immediately before it? Not the Egwene, Nynaeve, whatever one, but the one with Moiraine where she is literally telling them that if you get recognized, even if you're recognized as somebody who's new in town, someone's going to tell the Red Ajah and they're going to come and investigate. These kids are being portrayed as really stupid, and then there are no consequences for this at all because nobody figures out that they're in town. Even though Siuan already knows, nobody who's standing around here, and there are people listening in on their conversation. First of all, Matt is shouting over the music so that everybody can hear that he is the hero who blew the horn in Falm, and Rand is the dragon. There's even a guy standing right next to him in the window who, as Matt is doing this, turns around and looks at him. What are we supposed to get from this? That, like, oh, he didn't believe him? Like, nobody's gonna come in and investigate that. Like, I swear, the person who wrote this scene did not even read the scene that happened with Moiraine just a few minutes ago. The Aes Sedai would know for certain that they are in town. Not just because Siuan knows, because she must know after seeing Moiraine and knowing that Rand is with Moiraine. They would know because they have control over the entire city like this. This is how, when Moiraine got to town, she was able to figure out where Egwene and Perrin were back in season 1. Like, she knew where they were. She also knew where Rand and Matt were. She figured this stuff out because there are spies everywhere. That was established in season 1. But here, the spy network is gone. No more spy network. And we have a writer who is not reading the script that they are writing, unless there's multiple writers on multiple scenes in a single episode. What happened? It's inconsistency like this that I find extremely obnoxious. These guys could have, I guess, just gotten some wine and gone down into a wine cellar somewhere and had their drinking there, or maybe gone to some, I don't know, quiet area in the outskirts of town. There's so many different things that you should have done except what was done. And it's passed off as an Easter egg, but it's actually just kind of a little slice of heartbreak for anybody who's a fan of the books. There was a really cool finale to book 2 where Rand and Ishamael basically become giants and fight in the clouds. And this is how the dragon has announced himself. Everybody can see this happening for miles in every direction. Like, multiple cities are aware that this is what happens because they can look up in the sky and see it. There's something like, it's like the Titans fighting. You get that sort of feeling from this climax. And this artist has drawn a picture of that. And then they added a dragon out of fire for some reason, because Elayne, I don't know, whatever. Somehow somebody found out that there was a bearded guy wearing a suit and vest up on the top of the tower, but that was never really explained. Does Matt call Rand a sheepshagger? That was funny, okay? That was funny for me. And then Matt slides into, so you and Egwene back on, right? And Rand's like, well, we haven't really talked about it, but I guess they've been sleeping together for the last month. So they're not together? They haven't talked about that? They're just together. This is also kind of weird. I don't know, do guys actually talk like this? I don't think that they do. But that's okay. It's a different world. They can have different customs. This does feel more authentic. You've got Matt going, what is there to wonder, you know? You mean, Rand's never even kissed another girl, so what else is there to assume but they're together? And you see Rand kind of like, and the boys are like, oh, have you kissed another girl? Or more? Have you done more? And Rand is doing his like, I don't kiss and tell kind of look. I mean, I like this. This is nice. This is good. I wish the girls had done something like this. It doesn't have to be about the relationships if you don't want to have that. But have something other than just sitting and talking about things that happened and saying this is the way it's been for the last, like that was info dump. I mean, they did with it what they could. Good on the actress who plays Egwene. She did a pretty good job in season 2 with being imprisoned and you know, basically going through hell, being demane to Rena. And then she pulled the tears out and the trembly lip again in the little discussion that she had in the previous scene. But Rand tells them, you know, oh, it was an innkeeper in Cairhien, and they're like, an older woman. You know, it's cute. I like it. And Matt's trying to guess who it is, and he's like, well, it's not Aviendha. The only people that, you know, she smiles at are Elayne and Perrin. And Perrin's like, no, it's not like that. It's fine. It's telling us, but a little bit more cleverly than the previous scene with the girls. They're telling us about what the situation is, but they're treating it as a present matter. He's trying to guess who it is that Rand has slept with and making a game out of it. And he's making passing comments about other women who it might be, or at least one other woman. And with that, they have crushed the idea that Perrin and Aviendha were anything, which is fine. You know, now that I think about it, Perrin is the most shy about getting with women, which is what all the boys were until Rand ended up sleeping with somebody, and then Matt ends up sleeping with somebody, and then Perrin ends up getting married. But yeah, he's like, no, there's nothing like that between us. But then that pretty seamlessly slides into Matt expressing that he wishes he could get with the 2 other Aiel women, and he's like, all right, boys, you know, let's a cheers to us. And he's talking about how he hopes that they all end up in the arms of ginger women. But he says that in the old tongue. And then we're going to address that. This is actually a much better written scene than the last one. It's a more clever way of telling. This is acceptable here. Matt realizes he said something in old tongue, and he's like, crap, I did it again, didn't I? And I don't know what this thing is, but Rand does this thing where he like wipes his hand on Matt's shoulder. I don't know. It's a little awkward, but okay, it's a gesture. Like, I've seen him do this, I think, a couple of times. It may be in season 2, I don't know. But it's his thing that he does to Matt. It does look like he wipes his hand on his shoulder, but okay. I can appreciate little details like that, even if they're slightly awkward. But yeah, they do their little cheers, and then Perrin's like, you're not getting away with this, you know, trying to guess who he slept with, and that's when Rand goes, well, it was a woman in Cairhien, an innkeeper named Selene. And they're like, ooh, Selene. It's cute. And they want to know, you know, more about her, but he's like, let's go get some more beer. And so he goes off to get some more. And then we cut to Lanfear strolling the streets of Tar Valon, wearing something very conspicuous, just gonna say. We cut to Moiraine and Verrin having a conversation on a balcony while Lan paces, keeping watch. And Verrin's basically telling Moiraine that, yeah, we lost a bunch of our Terangriel, Sangriel, those power items. And she's like, man, it seems like the final battle is getting closer and closer, especially since the dragon has, you know, declared himself. And she's like, by the way, he's with you, isn't he? I mean, Verrin knows. Just like, she's the smartest out of all of the Aes Sedai in this thing so far, which I approve of, because she's very clever in the books, too. At least as far as I've gotten. She's kind of in it for herself as well. But the next line makes no sense at all, so...
I have no intention of allowing Grandal Thor anywhere near the Aes Sedai.
She brought him here. So, and then even Verrin's line after this doesn't make any sense, because she essentially says that, look, before he declared himself the dragon, he may have been under your control, but now... But she didn't have control of him. The last time that Verrin was with Moiraine, other than when they were in Cairhien and she was breaking Rand out of the Siuan's control or whatever, Moiraine was not with Rand for a very long time. Half a year, wasn't it? It was a while. She had no control over him. That was a huge, like, at what point did Verrin get the impression that Moiraine had Rand under her control? And here she is guessing that Rand is with her. So she doesn't, I mean, it's a very good guess. And as a matter of fact, it's the smartest guess. But seriously, I mean, if Verrin knows that he's here, then Siuan should know. Why are they ignoring this? Because it's convenient. I'm convinced that the writers believe if they just do nothing, nobody will notice. But Verrin basically says, look, you're just gonna have to trust him. Like, he's gonna do whatever he wants, and you're just gonna have to concede control to him a little bit. And she's like, you overestimate his progress. Verrin says, before he declared himself the dragon, you might have had control over him, but now you're going to have to cede some of that control. You're going to have to trust the dragon. And Moiraine is like, you overestimate his progress. So this is actually the lesson that Moiraine needs to learn before. I know what's going to happen at the end of this series. I'm not going to spoil it, I guess. But this would be the lesson that she has to learn. She has to let go of trying to control Rand. This would mean a lot more if we actually saw 3 whole seasons of her telling Rand what to do and where to go. Because this doesn't happen until the end of book 5. The thing that's going to happen at the end of this season, I am certain, does not happen till the end of book 5. And the lesson that she has to learn shortly before that happens is, I have to stop trying to control Rand. So we're going to see her, she did not have control of him at all during season 1 because they were never together. Like, the only time that they were together was in the Two Rivers. Then she was injured and basically knocked unconscious. And then they met up again in Tarvalon, where she took them in the Waygate to the Eye of the World. And that's where, and she had to wait for one of them to volunteer themselves. And that's where, she did not have control of him. Then he disappeared for months. And then she found him, set him free from, where were they? Oh yeah, from Liandrin. The thing is that they haven't showed her being manipulative and controlling a whole lot. And that was actually an opportunity for them to do it in a more condensed and obvious way than it was done in the book, and they didn't do it. But anyway, so she has to learn to not try to manipulate him, basically just take orders from him. That's the lesson she needs to learn, is to do that. And Verrin is informing her of, this is the lesson that you need to learn. Somebody was following the formula at this point, because this is what you do in storytelling. You give your protagonist the lesson that they need to learn before they're ready to learn it. And then when we get to the moment of learning later on, we'll be like, aha, there's the thing you're supposed to learn. But the rest of this argument that Verrin gives makes no sense. So she just told Moiraine, you need to give up some of your control and trust Rand. Then she tells Moiraine, I trusted Naomi. I've known her since she was a child. I thought I knew her 100%. I believed in her and trusted her. But because of that, my sister's brain is scrambled eggs at this point. And she's like, and that happened because I thought I had the measure of a person. So is she telling Moiraine to trust Rand or not to trust him? She goes, you're going to need to learn how to... She's like, I know you trust the dragon, but can you trust Rand? It's almost like she's telling her, you need to trust Rand. And then she's telling her, but can you trust him? Make up your mind, lady. No wonder Moiraine looks so confused after this point. I'd be confused too. I'd be like, what are you saying, Verrin? What? And if they're trying to say you should question yourself for trusting him, then she should never have told Moiraine you need to trust him. Because what does she want? Does she want her to trust him, or does she not want her to trust him? We get back to Perrin and Rand playing, looks like foxes and snakes, which is a little foretelling of some stuff that's going to, maybe, I don't know if we'll ever see the foxes and snakes people. Well, we might, because we had the arch. Anyway, but Perrin is telling us what Rand is like. That's what the purpose of this little bit here is. He's like, man, I couldn't do it. All these people coming to you asking what to do next. And he's like, yeah, I don't like it either. And he's like, but Perrin's like, but you do it so well. I could never do that. We should have seen this rather than have to be told this. I've never once seen Rand giving orders, like people coming to him asking what to do and him being like, do this, and then they go and do it and it works out. I've never seen that once. I do like what Perrin is saying here. He's like, you're a natural at this. You're really good. Both of you, and you don't give yourself enough credit. You, Rand, and even Matt, you're both leaders. I couldn't do that. And I would follow Matt anywhere, probably drowned in a vat of beer, but, he'd convince me it's the right thing to do.
Yeah! You son of a bitch! I'm in!
He says that he himself doesn't have that, but they do. And he goes, no matter what happens, Rand, I know you're going to make the right choice. And this is where Rand kind of picks up on Perrin wants to leave. And that I have a problem with. Perrin's character has gone through such a different journey from the books. It's very unusual what they're doing with him here. One of the things about Perrin is that he is very protective of the gang. This is his family. He protects them. At the beginning of book 3, we see that he is with Rand, basically being there to help protect Rand. He is Rand's confidant and the one who stands guard, literally stands guard. He doesn't like people to be hurt. So he leaves the group when he hears that after he has set an Aiel guy Gaul free, and there's this battle and he has to kill a couple of white cloaks, word gets around to Dane Bornhald, who is in the show the son of the guy that Perrin axed in the finale, in the battle, the white cloak guy. They have all been told by Padan Fain that Perrin, was it Padan Fain? I don't remember who it was. They've been told, Dane has been told that Perrin is the one who is responsible for all the white cloaks dying in Fall. And so they go looking for Perrin, and they get to the two rivers, and they hold the two rivers basically hostage, like captive, like, we are controlling you. Perrin gets word of this and is like, I have to go back and save the two rivers. They're there because of me. The white cloaks are enslaving the two rivers because of me. Well, not enslaving, I don't know. They've taken them captive. They've isolated them. He packs up his stuff to go back there to help the two rivers by turning himself into the white cloaks. He wants them to leave the two rivers people free. But that's not what they choose to do here in the show. This is a lot less honorable, what they're about to do with Perrin here. Yeah, so Rand has figured out that Perrin is leaving, but then Matt comes in and he's like, hey, look at my portrait, it's awesome. I'm gonna have miniatures done and give them to the ladies whose hearts I have to break. And he picks up on things have gotten a little bit serious, but Perrin's sort of like, no, it's okay. Hey, Rand, it's your role. And they keep playing their snakes and foxes game. And that's the end of that scene. That was actually nice and natural feeling. Despite all the telling that was going on and the setup for not an honorable reason to depart from the group from Perrin, it was at least by itself. If there was no source material, I was okay with most of this. Except for you're such a natural leader. Why didn't we see that? Why didn't we see him being a leader? Whatever, okay. I do not like a lot of character progression happening off page, or in this case, off screen. And the reason is because you have to do things like this. Just take us through the journey. Last month, you did some awesome stuff here. Let me explain what it was for the people who weren't there. Okay. Anyway, we're back to Moiraine and Lan. I guess Verrin has left, but Lan has noticed Liandrin down in the crowd, and he's alerted Moiraine, and Liandrin turns and looks up at them, and then we cut to Liandrin talking to the both of them. At least Lan is doing his Lanny duty at this point. Okay, I forgot about this. So Lanfear can teleport also. She's learned Lan's trick.
Hello.
Hello.
Where are they hiding their communicators, where they're signaling that they want to be beamed elsewhere? Lanfear starting out their conversation saying, very good, you didn't even embrace the source. And Moiraine going, that doesn't mean I'm unprepared. Well, you aren't. Your warder is not between you and certain death should she decide to kill you. What are you prepared with? So Moiraine and Lanfear start having a conversation like everything's just fine. As far as we know, Moiraine has not spoken to Lanfear since Lanfear tricked her and Lan and kicked them out of the Waygate 2 miles away from the place where they were supposed to come out and told her, make your little dragon banner or whatever whatever. Moiraine has no reason to trust Lanfear. Lanfear said, I'm going to kill Moiraine if I have to see her again. And Lanfear has no reason to trust Moiraine. She hates Moraine's guts. She wants to kill Moiraine. Remember the whole you slit my throat thing? But anyway, so Lanfear is saying that Rand is not going to go to Tyr. And Moraine's like, well, we don't have to because, he killed Ishamael without using Kalendor. Which, yeah, she's hiding the truth from Lanfear. But why? Obviously, Lanfear knows what's going on. And then Lanfear comments that Ishamael was a gentle soul with a big dream. His big dream was the destruction of all creation, the end of existence. Which, by the way, if a heron-marked sword can wipe Ishamael from existence, all they need to do is go get some more Heron-marked blades. I don't think they're all that rare. If that's all it takes to kill a Forsaken in the show, which is not the case in the books, I mean, they're treating these guys like, okay, the Forsaken are sort of like the White Walkers, and the Heron-marked blade, or a power-wrought weapon, is like Valyrian steel or dragon glass. Just you stab them one of these and they disintegrate into ash and they're done. Now in the book, the Forsaken are not immortal in the sense that you kill them and they immediately come back, or you try to kill them and they the thing that happened to Lanfear, that doesn't happen to all of them. They are essentially being preserved when they're imprisoned in the seals. They're being held, suspended in development. They can't be reborn back into the world because they're stuck there alive, not dying. But they can be killed like anybody else. I mean, you gotta be very powerful to do it. You gotta do something pretty outrageous to kill them. But it's not as easy as use this magic sword and it will kill them. I mean, I don't mean sort of Kalendor, but like this power raw sword. But Lanfear says the others couldn't care less if Rand breaks the wheel, which is what Ishamael wanted, or joins the Dark One. They just want him dead. I mean, I would think that they just want whatever the Dark One wants, because they know that if they help the Dark One, they get to be the Dark One's number 2, or number 1. I am having a little difficulty understanding what their logic is in killing Rand. If he dies, a woman will be born as the dragon, or could be, because that's the way the show has set it up. I understand why they wouldn't do it in the book, because if you kill him, he'll come back still as a guy. But okay, whatever. It's very hard to think about this and comment on it. Yeah, they will for sure, especially if you've got Rand running around town announcing his presence. The Lanfear is about to take off, leaving her with the thought that, I know, Rand, including the dark parts that you wish you could not have to know about or whatever. And then Moiraine and Lan share a look and she goes, all right, Rand has told me that you've been visiting him in his dreams ever since fall. So why did she assume that Lanfear didn't know? Whatever. And she says, Rand's been telling me that you've been trying to pressure him to go to Tyr and pick up the Sword of Kalendor, which actually is very Lanfear-like. So yeah, so Moiraine says, I think that's why he's not going, because you keep trying to push him to go. And Lanfear's like, no, it's not me. It's because of his friends. He's not going to abandon his friends. They are keeping him here. Who is keeping them in Tar Valon? Was it Nynaeve? She was like, we have to go and testify against Leandrin. Who brought them there? And if it was the kids that wanted to go to Tar Valon and that's why they're there, why are we supposed to assume that Moiraine has had control over them all this time? She's not been the one that they've been listening to. If you constantly deliver conflicting information, nobody can really know what is going on, and that means you can do anything, which means that anything is believable, which means that nothing is believable. Limitations in a world and a system are what make it work. So if you don't put those limitations out there, even in scenarios, situations here, who brought them to Tar Valon? We need to know that. Because either Moiraine, you're a great leader that they've been feeling like they've been pressured to follow you, what you're doing, and now they're like, oh, we want to rebel from you. Or they led her there and she's never had control of these kids. So her whole like, I'm gonna lose control of them, I don't want to lose control, that's not what the case has been. So this is not a good way to write a story. It's just not. And you can get attached to this sort of thing for superficial reasons, like, look at how beautiful Lan looks right now. I'm attached to that. But that'll only last so long. Rewatchability is essential to things like this, and the more you watch this, and the more you listen, the holes come out. This is now my 3rd time watching this episode, and I'm catching way more than I did the first time. Maybe that's why this rant of mine is going on for so long, because I thought it was only going to be an hour-long video. I guarantee this is going to be like a 2-hour-long video. And then Lanfear says, you know what will make them hurt. You know what will make them leave Rand behind. She wants Moiraine to coordinate with her. Like, one of the big things that Moiraine stresses to the kids is you must resist the Forsaken. Do not give over to them. It's basically like, this is the devil, and these are his agents, and if you do anything for them, you are sliding further and further into their power. And yet here we have Lanfear tempting Moiraine and saying, you should split them up. You should split Rand from his friends. That way Rand can become the hero and go and get the Sword of Kalimdor or whatever. And Moiraine is listening to her and agreeing with her. Lanfear has approached Moiraine with a plan, and Moiraine decides to go along with it. Moiraine has no reason at all to trust a single word that comes out of Lanfear's mouth. The one time that she worked with Lanfear, going into the ways together, Lanfear betrayed her. Why does she think that this is not a horrible idea? And on top of that, Moiraine knows that the kids are Verrin. They are important pieces of this entire story. They are going to help Rand win the war. And yet, she is agreeing with Lanfear that they need to be hurt. She's like, you think I would hurt them? And Lanfear's like, I know you would. That's why I like you. And then Moiraine does it, or goes along with it. The last thing that Moiraine would ever do is jeopardize the victory of the dragon. And if having the Verrin to support the dragon is part of the victory of the dragon, she won't risk any of that. This is weird. Even just taking the show by itself, why is she trusting Lanfear? And why is Lanfear trusting Moiraine? Lanfear would not work with Moiraine in any way. She would not give her the liberty to continue influencing Rand in any way. She literally told Rand, if I see you with Moiraine, I'm gonna kill her. And you can go, oh yeah, but she didn't kill her. She betrayed her. This was Rand getting the upper hand on Lanfear. That is why it didn't happen. She didn't just, oh well, I guess I'll let you live. It was because she would lose Rand if she killed Moiraine at that moment. So she did the next best thing. She kicked her out and said, haha, no more for you. You're not part of this anymore. I'm with Rand. We cut to Moiraine leaving with Lan, and Lan saying we can't trust her, and Moraine's like, yeah, but I think we can trust that she doesn't want the other Forsaken to find Rand.
Rand killed one of the Forsaken in fall. They're supposed to be immortal. She's smart enough to worry he'll do the same to her someday.
What? Why does Lan think he can kill? Oh, that's right. They've got magic swords. Lan, I don't think, would ever assume that he has the ability to kill a Forsaken who can channel, especially not Lanfear. It's just kind of silly. Oh my gosh, yeah. So basically, this conversation gets to the point where Lan is saying she's going to betray us, just like she had in the past. Like, that's the pattern. And Moiraine goes, yeah, maybe tomorrow, but not tonight. Moiraine is dumb. And then she tells Lan to go get his sword just in case. Just in case, what is he gonna do? I guess he could stab Lanfear. Anybody with a sword, then, can kill the Forsaken, unless they are Moiraine, because she did use Rand's power-wrought sword, the heron-marked blade that he later used to kill Ishamael, to stab Lanfear right through the chest, and that did nothing. So what are they trying to say here? Do these things work against the Forsaken or not? Why would it work with Lan's blade, but not with Rand's blade? Is Lanfear just special? If that's the case, why does she think that Lan's Malkier blade will work against Lanfear? Is it different from a heron-marked blade? They were both described as power-wrought swords. And if the heron-marked blade could take out, oh my gosh, never mind, just forget it. Anyway, Lan leaves to go get his sword, and for some reason, Moiraine stops in her tracks and looks towards a building. I don't know, I thought maybe I'm supposed to see Pad and Fane or something? I don't see what I'm supposed to see here. Are those supposed to be white cloaks? They don't look like white cloaks. Then we drop in on the girls, and they haven't left the room, but at least they're drinking now. And we get more the girls are just sitting here telling us about things that have happened already, and they're not giving us anything new. They're going, I'm just saying, you're the only one Aviendha responds to. They're insinuating that Aviendha has a thing for Elayne, and Elayne is like, no, it's just part of their culture. You just have to understand. And they're like, oh, I'm sure you know a lot about their culture. And Nynaeve is like, oh my gosh, Egwene, don't say that. Like, they're telling us about what happened in the past. It's just like in the beginning of that conversation between Perrin and Rand, where Perrin was like, oh, everybody listens to you. You're such a great leader. You always, when did we see that happen? And in this case, when did we see Elayne and Aviendha having a scene together? They have not had a single scene. Oh, they've been seen once in the same room together. I don't even know if they were actually in the same shot ever. Maybe they were. But we didn't see them making eyeballs at each other. We didn't see anything happening in there. They have not had a scene where they've interacted with each other yet at all in the whole series. But we're being told that Aviendha, and this is the second time we're being told about this, Aviendha responds to you. She's got a thing for you, and maybe you have a thing for her? Stop telling us about stuff that we're not seeing. So then Siuan strolls in, so she's known where the ladies are staying, and gosh, if she saw that Moiraine is in town, she must assume that Moiraine is with the girls, right? She knows that they were friends with the dragon. Why else would they be in town? Oh my gosh, so stupid. But she goes, unless you want to put at risk the alliance between the White Tower and Andor, like one of our closest allies, Elayne, I expect to see you in the tower tomorrow, but that's tomorrow. Tonight you can enjoy what freedom you have, so go on, get out of here so I can have a private conversation with these two. And Elaine's just like, okay, and then strolls out. Ugh, another conversation. I'm really surprised to see Siuan out and about without protection, but okay. Elayne says, Rand told us what you tried to do to him back in Cairhien, so we're never coming back to your White Tower. So Siuan admits to regretting what she's done in the past, and Moiraine slips in discreetly and is listening in on this conversation. But Siuan goes on and says, look, I could tell you anything. Like, I could tell you that we really need you, the Black Ajah are here, and times have changed, whatever. It's like, I don't think anything's going to change your mind. You already know all this stuff. It's like, but the thing is this, is the dragon is going to go mad. Rand is going to go mad because when he channels more, he will go mad. And when that happens, she's like, it's going to happen. When it does, you'll be grateful for any training that we can give you. And to be honest, we will be grateful also to have you on our side at that point. These are actually good arguments. Like, this is not telling. This is the kind of stuff you put into dialogue, into conversations. This is when you do have characters sit down and discuss what are we going to do? Not sitting there and just going, here are the options, but laying out the consequences of the possible choices. And now we have to make a decision. And at the end of this, we do have one. It's nice. But Egwene is like, I'm never going back to the tower. Like, no, never. And Siuan says, if you leave the city without the Great Serpent Ring, you will never be allowed back. Is this a rule? I mean, okay. They are closing a loophole here, but it is weird. Is that the way that the rule, like, has I don't get it. Okay. Like, this is a very strange rule. Why would she never be allowed back? Especially if Siuan is the only one who knows that Egwene is here. Like, she doesn't have to tell anybody, but okay, whatever. We need plot to happen, so let's go on.
Whatever the Aes Sedai could offer you or him will be gone.
No, she doesn't need it. I have the ring.
I do love, again, we got Nynaeve being dumb. Siuan's like, you don't have the power to back it up. You can't channel. She has not channeled, I think, since going into the Arches, has she? I don't think she has. Nynaeve, anytime that you are not in a position of power, you are acting like you are, and it's really stupid. I don't know if that's intentional, but it makes her look dumb. Egwene is like, nope, I'm not gonna help you stop Rand, or I'm not gonna do anything, whatever. But Siuan is like, if you leave the city without the Great Serpent Ring, anything that we could have offered you, it's gone forever. But then Egwene has changed her mind. It is contrived. I don't see why Egwene would say, I don't need your power. Like, I don't need anything that the tower has to offer me. Like, wait, what is this? What's gonna happen here is Egwene goes through the Arches and then takes the ring and leaves. So this is what's happening in her mind. She is telling Siuan, who has laid out what the possible consequences are, if you leave here, like, you would be grateful to have what the tower has to offer. Like, when stuff goes bad with Rand, you're gonna want to know the stuff that we could have taught you. And Egwene's like, nope, not doing that. So she's already been tempted with that, and she's not doing it. And then when Siuan says, if you leave town now without the Great Serpent Ring, you'll never be allowed back to learn anything from us. That's what changes Egwene's mind? I thought she just said she doesn't need anything that the tower has.
Oh, sister, thou art not being honest with thyself, are we? Huh? Huh? Come on. Give me a smile.
But oh, whatever, keep going. I gotta hustle through this more. But anyway, so Egwene is like, all right, fine. We don't have the power to face the Forsaken and the Black Ajah. Nynaeve, you don't. She's like, so, okay, I will come back to the White Tower on one condition. I go through the Arches today. Okay. We have to have Egwene go through the Arches, because before she goes to Rhuidean, she needs to have been through the Arches and have the Great Serpent Ring, because there's going to be a few things that happen where she pretends to be an Aes Sedai, and the ring is what gives that away. Not gives that away, but the ring is what she uses as proof that she is Aes Sedai. So I have a headache. Oh, I gotta speed through this faster. We cut from that immediately to down by the arches, and Siuan and Leanne and some other lady are doing the little thing where they're like, all right, go into the arches. You can go in with nothing but your wits, and the way comes but once. And then we see Elayne go into the arches. We cut to Nynaeve in her room, and Lan comes in to be supportive and comforting. Like, I heard about Egwene in the arches. Don't worry, she's strong just like you. Why do people abuse this man? And it just occurred to me how perfect he and Nynaeve are for each other, according to the show, because he thinks he can beat a Forsaken, and Nynaeve thinks she can beat anybody, because she is the most powerful Aes Sedai that we've seen in 1,000 years. Okay, this is really weird. So in this bit, we've got Nynaeve explaining to Lan that, it's not just what happens in the arches, it's the memories that you're left with. And he's asking about, were we happy in that other life? So she's obviously told him about this stuff. And she's like, yes and no. I mean, they seemed pretty happy, except for the whole dying thing at the end. So if that's what she was talking about, yes, we were happy until it ended, but okay. But then she says, but we had both given up what we really wanted. Now, I might be mishearing that, but I've listened to it a couple times, and that's what I think that's what she says. We had both given up what we really wanted. That's the point of the arches, is sacrificing what you want, which is to stay in this paradise, at least not in this particular vision that she's talking about, the one where they're married and they have family and everything's happy. That was what she wanted, and she was supposed to step away from that, give that up to go back and become an Aes Sedai. Like, the idea was, I have something that I need to do, and it's more important than my personal desires. But what she's saying is her paradise, the two of them being together, that was her having given up what she and Lan really wanted, but that's supposed to show what they really wanted. Unless she meant by what they really wanted was, I really wanted to become an Aes Sedai and fight for the light, and you wanted to destroy the dark, which is basically what they want. I guess maybe that's what they mean. I give them that pass, but it's very clumsy. And it's because of what they did in the show with the arches being different from what happened in the books. This conversation doesn't quite fit that. In the show, the only reason she left that paradise with Lan is because it became hell. Everybody she loved was slaughtered in front of her. She was saving her child, running off to safety with her child. She didn't have to leave her child to go and do what's right. And then here we've got Lan playing his part in Lanfear's plan. Well, Moiraine and Lanfear's plan. He goes, are you sure you're not giving up what you really want in order to be with Rand? Like, are you sure you're not doing that again? So he's basically saying, like, are you sure you want to go be with Lan? Don't you want to stay here and be at the White Tower and learn how to wield your power? Like, okay, this is okay. But I don't like the idea of Lan being okay with helping out the Dark One by assisting with Lanfear's plan. Okay. Then we come to what is the first half of my two favorite scenes in this episode. We've got Elayne delivering 2 letters. One is to her mother, one is to, I don't know, it doesn't really matter. She's letting her mom know that, hey, everything's cool. And she turns around, and Aviendha has been following her. So Aviendha gives the excuse that, the dragon doesn't need me, this city isn't safe, so I came to watch you. Well, if the city isn't safe and you're supposed to protect the dragon, like, shouldn't you be there? But okay. But they start flirting with each other right away. I mean, their flirting began from the moment they locked eyes. But yeah, so Elayne says that I'm gonna use what freedom I have before tomorrow to have some wine, whatever, doesn't matter. And she does some of the Aiel signing, and
Tickle, 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 tickle.
Oh my.
Aviendha's like, oh, careful, your red hair, people might think you're Aiel, and they're flirting and they're about to walk off. But that's when Elayne grabs hold of Aviendha and is like, dude, Rand is not used to having power. Like, he doesn't know how to use it or what to do with it. So, give him a break. And we end with that. I will come back to this conversation a little later. We jump next to Rand and Loial looking over some book where there's a prophecy about the Stone of Tyr. The Stone of Tyr will never fall until the Sword of Kalendor is wielded by the dragon. And then it repeats, the Stone of Tyr will never fall until the people of the dragon return. And so Rand is like, who the hell are the people of the dragon? It could be my army, right? And Loial's like, I don't know, it's been lost to history. And he reasons that if I take the Sword of Kalendor and defeat the Stone of Tyr or whatever, I become king. I become the ruler. I like the idea of them sitting down and trying to puzzle this out. We get to be part of the puzzle solving then. So I'm okay with this. We've got Elayne coming in and she says, yeah, it means that, Tyr would be the first kingdom of many that you will conquer. Like, that's what the prophecy basically says. If you can do this, it will be the first of many that you are able to rule over. So Rand is starting to make plans for what he's going to do next. And now this did not actually happen in the books until like after he got the Sword of Kalendor. He didn't do this in order to go get the Sword of Kalendor. He went to go get the Sword of Kalendor because it's the one thing that is actual proof that he really is the dragon. So he's like, I need to, like, am I really the dragon or am I just a tool of the Aes Sedai? Because he wasn't really convinced that he himself is the dragon at that point. Because remember, it could have been any of the former people, the former male channelers claiming to be the dragon that the Aes Sedai controlled. So he's like, I don't know if I really am. But the Sword of Kalendor cannot be wielded except by the dragon. So he's like, if I can get it and I can use it, that means I really am it. And then from that point forward, he kind of like, okay, we're doing this then. And he actually goes off on his own to do it. He doesn't want to risk other people getting hurt because he doesn't know how to control his power. And bad guys are constantly after him. I mean, he leaves his friends to go get the sword or to, try to take it himself because the encampment where he and his friends and all the people who basically have come to serve him from all over the world gets attacked and a bunch of people get hurt and he's literally unable to do anything except for set some trees on fire. So, okay, I mean, I can actually get behind them switching this around. The execution is going to be interesting though. I sort of like the idea of him saying, I have to go and get the Aiel to get into the Stone of Tyr. Like, that's how he intends to accomplish this task. Whereas before, the Aiel are basically looking for him, and they meet at the Stone of Tyr, and it's because he grabs the sword that they're basically like, oh my gosh, I think you might be the Kara Karn. Like, let's take you back to Roidion and test you and see if that's who you are. Anyway, so they are actually skipping, though, that Rand doubts that he is the Dragon Reborn. He believes that it's possible that this is all fake and the Aes Sedai are just using me as a tool. That was working pretty heavily in his favor as a reason to not trust the Aes Sedai. But they've replaced that with Siuan capturing him. I mean, this is kind of working to hit certain plot points and kind of make them work, but it's neglected to develop certain things like his distrust of Moiraine in general. He's just not trusting her, and it's really not entirely clear why. Although after tonight, he might. Like, if he finds out what happened, that should have been his reason for not trusting Moiraine. I have a feeling he's not going to find out about it, though. Unless Lanfear tells him because she wants him to distrust the Aes Sedai, which is something that Lanfear in the books does. Maybe they'll do that. So Elayne asks for private conversation with Rand. Loyal leaves, and Elayne tells Rand, I sent a letter to my mom's friend, who is a ruler of Tyr, basically, and she's like, it's really important that you have her support. And Rand's like, why the hell would she support me coming in and conquering her city? And Elaine's like, well, because peaceful transfer of power is always preferable to conquest and bloodbaths and things like this. And Rand points out that either way, they're going to lose. And Elayne comes back at having power means accepting that any decision you make to help people is going to hurt others. I mean, it didn't exactly counter his doubts about what he just said. She could have maybe added somewhere in there that, she wants to make the decision. If she loses both ways, she's going to pick the one that involves the least amount of loss. And when you're in charge of people, you don't want to risk their lives. So it's better to negotiate and have a peaceful transfer of power than to have a bloodbath, right? But the thing that she said is true also, and it's good advice for Rand for him to think about going forward. Yeah, and she says, you just need to accept this truth and know who to trust. And he's like, you make it sound so easy. And she goes, it's not. But you know what? You can start by not making an enemy of Aviendha. And she points out that Aviendha is here because they think that you might be the Kara Karn. And you know what? They could be your army. I mean, that seems obvious. The Aiel are known for being these badass warriors, and she just said, hundreds of thousands of us think that you might be our leader. They set this up like the audience is going to be surprised when they come up with the solution. It's not the most clever thing, but okay. I mean, they did it right. It's just not, whatever. Okay, moving on. She points out he needs a loyal army, and it could be the Aiel. They are like the best. And if they trust you and believe in you, they will follow you anywhere, including to Tyr. And Rand goes, I wish you were coming along with us. Can I convince you to come with us? And she's like, nah. But, just so you know, Andor will always be a friend to the Dragon Reborn. And she's like, and so will I. Now in the book, this is not their relationship at all. It's kind of instant love between the two of them. And there's a magical reason for this, which Min describes. Elayne is being woven in through the pattern. The pattern is weaving her and Rand together, like drawing them together. She is supposed to be with Rand. And the tool being used to make that happen is attraction. She loves Rand. And this is plainly being presented as a friendship. The two of them are just friends. They don't seem to have any attraction to each other at all. Now, I am all in favor of developing a relationship between the two of them in order to honor the source material, honor what it is, because it was not done in the best way. It could have been done better. But removing the relationship completely and putting it somewhere else, that's not enhancing or improving what the writer did. This is taking what the writer did and said, we're doing something different. We will get back to that. Next scene, we are in Egwene's test. Well, the only one that we're shown. And she and Nynaeve and Elayne are galloping across the countryside on horses, and they come across Rand standing in a river that's got red in it. It looks like it's supposed to be blood. But then when we get a second shot of him from a different angle, we see that the river is blue. So he's gone mad, and Nynaeve is 100% sure of it. She's like, I saw him kill Mat and Perrin, so he's definitely gone mad. Anyway, Rand turns to them and is like, all right, Egwene, you finally got what you've always wanted. Now bow to me. And he's screaming at them. He's insane. And Elayne says what he wants to do, and Egwene goes, steel yourself, sisters. And then obviously she kills him. Now, this is not at all what happens to Egwene in any of her tests. She's never faced with, I have to kill Rand, and then she does, because from this, she comes out from that situation covered in blood. It appears that she killed him. In the book, one of her tests from the present, because there's usually from the past, the present, and the future. From the one from the present, that's the closest we get to her having to kill Rand, because Rand is pinned under a column and is begging her like, hey, get this thing off me. And she's like, I can't, I don't have the skill. And he's like, I could do it, but if I do, I'll go mad. And so he asks her to kill him. And she doesn't. The arch appears, and she has to abandon him in his situation without having to make a choice about what it is and go through the arch to get back out. The way will come but once. So that was the one closest to the whole kill Rand thing. In the other one, it's more complicated. She is the Amerlin seat, okay? And Rand is brought to her, and she's told she needs to still him, but she's not gonna. And then she gets knocked out, and she wakes up, and she's surrounded by a bunch of bad guys who are going to turn her evil, because she learned from her previous test that if you have 13 Mydrall, there's a formula for how to force an Aes Sedai to become evil, basically. And she's sitting there knowing she's in the middle of the equation, but she's able to get out of it, and she confronts the person who got her into that situation, the one who knocked her out, and she's like, I'm sorry, but I was told if I do this, then they'll give me back my ability to channel, because she'd been stilled, and Egwene did not realize that. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Anyway, she asks where Rand is and finds out that Rand is out there with a bunch of bad guys, and they're gonna do something bad to him. And she's about to go and try to save him, but the arch appears, and she has to choose to go through the arches instead of helping Rand. In no situation was she faced with, I have to kill Rand, and then she goes through with it. So this is fundamentally changing what her test is. The idea is you must sacrifice something that's really important to you in favor of returning to the Aes Sedai to become an Aes Sedai. Like, you will have a faint idea of, I need to go through those arches to become an Aes Sedai, and that's really important to me. And that is how they're testing your heart. Will you be loyal to the tower? But here, that has nothing to do with that. It's like, can you kill Rand? I'm not sure what this is supposed to be telling us. But the arches were supposed to be a test of, how bad do you want to be loyal to the tower? And that's not what this was. For some reason, they didn't dump water all over her. And that's what they did in season 1 to Nynaeve after she went through the arches. Every time she came out, they dump a bucket of water on her. It's kind of like a rebirth sort of thing, I think. Actually, it was supposed to be like they wash away all the past, whatever, doesn't matter. Same thing. Baptism. We cut to Rand sitting on a balcony, and Moiraine comes out and talks to him and reveals that he's been doing some studying, and he points out that, you know, they say that nobody but the dragon can pull the sword out of the stone. And Moiraine is like, not if another Forsaken does first, not another channeler goes and does it. And he's like, nobody's done it in 1,000 years. And she's like, yeah, but the Forsaken haven't been out for 1,000 years. This is a good way to show that they've been arguing about going to the Stone of Tyr. And obviously, she has been trying to convince him that, like, you need this sword in order to, like, you need to get it in order to kill the Forsaken. And he's like, why are we basically here? Because of his argument, he's like, why do we need to rush? I'm the only one who can draw it. If I'm the dragon, I'm the only one who can draw it. And she's like, actually, anybody could draw it. So this is a good way to show what their argument has been without saying, you've been telling me for the past month that blah, 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 blah. They are continuing an argument that has already happened, and we are able to infer that from the dialogue that is presented to us. Well done there. And I do like what they do here. I hope that this is how it ends up. So Rand says, you know, why haven't they taken it? If one of the Forsaken could take it, why haven't they taken it yet? He's like, they could be there waiting for me to show up. Like, they know I'm going to go and get it. So it's like a trap. And that, in the book, is what happens. When he gets to the Stone of Tyr, there is literally one of the Forsaken waiting for him there, knowing that Rand is going to come and try to take the sword. And he wants to kill Rand and then take the sword. But that doesn't happen. I like that he was right about this. I enjoy it when the boys are shown to be smart, because they are smart in the books. Rand especially does some very clever things in upcoming conflicts, especially if we get to a certain battle that happens in the Waste. Or on the way out of the Waste, whatever. Anyway, how are they going to do this, I wonder? Oh, well.
Then where do you want to go?
Where do I really want to go?
Yes, where do you really want to go?
And then we're back to Stupidsville again, because Moiraine goes, where do you want to go? And he goes, back home. And she's like, home? What are your farmers going to do for you? Like, they're not an army. They're just going to die. I almost feel like she asked him this question, and he allowed for a moment of vulnerability. That's what's really in his heart. He does want to go home. And Moiraine just stomps all over that. Rather than seeing this as an opportunity to tap into his care and his loneliness and he's a very compassionate person in the books. I don't know if maybe he's not supposed to be here, but Moiraine definitely is dumb for not taking advantage of this moment of vulnerability on his part. He has just exposed the secret desire of his heart in this moment. He feels the pressure of being the dragon, and he just wants to go home. He just wants to be around people he can trust. She should have presented herself as somebody that he can trust. Instead, she just mows right over him and is like, you're going to do what I think is best because I know better than you, and you're an idiot. Oh, that's really going to make him trust you. Moiraine is a moron. I actually really like the way that the Rand actor looks at Moiraine. It's like he's telegraphing to this woman, like, I was just telling you about my pain. This is how men do this. And if you had any brains, you would have picked up on that. Instead, you're just a bitch. That's what that face says to me. He's looking at her thinking, this woman is an asshole and an idiot. And good for him saying, you don't tell me what to do anymore. Not that he ever did anything that she told him to do. I mean, why are they in Tyr? If she's the one who brought them, she's a moron. Oh my gosh. Okay, moving on. But yeah, Moiraine is like, oh no. I wonder if it's supposed to be that like No, she's already planned to do stuff to separate all of them. Okay, whatever, we're moving on. We cut back to Egwene. She is being given the ring, and As soon as she's got it, she's like, so long. She's walking out. And Siuan's like, where the hell are you going? You are sealed to the tower now. You are duty bound to serve the tower and me. And Egwene's like, I don't owe you anything. I'm getting out of here. I've got the ring, and my job is to serve the light, not you. This tower is falling apart from the inside out, so goodbye, and she leaves. I wonder if they've had this scene also she can get the ring and pretend to be Aes Sedai going forward. But okay, I mean, they did have to have her go through the arches at some point, so moving on. I could say more of it. What's the point? Next, we cut to a brief shot of Moiraine looking up at the tower. It is now nighttime. I don't know if she's thinking about Siuan. That's the only reason I could see her looking up at there, except for maybe if Egwene hasn't come back yet, but it's night, so I feel like she has come back. And then we cut to Lan and Nynaeve in their room. Lan is shirtless. He looks a little better with his hair slightly mussed and like little curly like that. Much better than it was in season 2. Oh my gosh, I cannot get some of those images out of my head. But yeah, okay, so he's kneeling, holding the sword of Malkier in his hands like this, and he has his eyes closed. It looks like he's praying. And Nynaeve asks him about, oh, that's a new sword, and so he's telling her about it and that it belonged to kings. And he explains that he has it not because he's worthy of it, but because he needs it. And she's like, why? And he explains, well, the Forsaken are coming. And they're not coming just for Rand, they're coming for all of us. And he takes Nynaeve's hands and puts it on the hilt of the sword.
Get your mind out of the gutter!
And says, this blade is power wrought, just like Rand's heron-marked blade, which was destroyed when he killed Ishamael. But she concludes that means it can kill the Forsaken. I mean, well, she notes that Rand's blade killed Ishamael, and so we're left with, so this is a blade that you can use to kill the Forsaken. This really heavily implies that if you have one of these swords, you can kill one of the Forsaken. Does that happen in the books? Is that what these power-wrought swords can do? You just walk up to a Forsaken and insert the sword and they die? I mean, in the book, they can die just from getting like their head cut off. Like that can happen. It's unlikely because I doubt they would let somebody get to that stage of proximity. But I mean, is that how it is in the books? That the heron-marked blades and this sword of Malkier being power-wrought means that if you insert it into a Forsaken, they perish? They are no longer immortal? Although they are not immortal in the book? Whatever. Do you know what I mean? Are these basically the Valyrian steel to the White Walkers who are the Forsaken? I don't know. It certainly doesn't make the Forsaken seem all that bad, if you can just... So Mat, Perrin, Loial, and Elayne are drinking some of Elaine's beer/wine that she has made, her apple cider, her cider. And the two Aiel girls come in, and Perrin's like, where's Aviendha? And she's obviously not there. And we do see Elayne slip away with 2 glasses of wine and a pitcher. And the 2 Aiel ladies ask Mat if he would like to play an Aiel game, Maiden's Kiss. And we get to see how that works. And they talk about Maiden's Kiss in the book, so this was fun. I actually kind of liked it. They both hold their spears up to his neck, and one of them kisses him and says, if the kiss is good, the spears move back. But if it's not, and then they push the blades closer to his throat. Seems like an Aiel game to me. I liked this. I thought it was funny. And then they turned to Loial and went, you can play too if you want. And Loyal's like, this was nice. This was such a nice moment. Elayne goes up to the upstairs room and finds Aviendha lounging on the ground, and she brings her some wine. She's like, I thought you'd be up here, and you were always on the deck sleeping. I guess that's where she would sleep when they were on the boat on the way there. Again, telling instead of showing. Aviendha goes, you've been watching me this whole time, which is basically what Elayne said to Aviendha when she turned around in the earlier scene and saw that Aviendha was there. You've been watching me this whole time. There was a missed opportunity when Elayne hands the wine to Aviendha, and Aviendha takes a sip, and obviously it's got some kick. Aviendha should have said it is pretty good for a wetlander. Just saying. So they're about to have an actual meaningful conversation, Aviendha looks out to the tower, which is all lit up, and says, so what's it like there? And Elayne remarks, well, without Egwene and Nynaeve, it's going to be freaking lonely, because she believes she's going to be the only one staying and going into the tower. Stemming off from this, we could have created a real opportunity for these two women to form a bond that is more than just the two of them flirting with each other, because that is pretty much all it has been. But Elayne sets down her wine and turns to Aviendha to have a serious conversation, which who knows what it's going to be. And Aviendha leans in to kiss her. She's not interested in having a deep and meaningful bond. She just wants to make out and then bang. And that's what they do. I do want to point out something here. I timed how much interaction these two women have had in this show. It's 1 minute and 44 seconds. 1 minute, 44 seconds. There's only one other kind of film where 1 minute and 44 seconds of relationship introduction and build-up happens before banging. And you have to be 18 or older in order to see those movies. I do not appreciate a relationship that goes straight to banging that we're supposed to be behind. I don't believe for a second that Aviendha and Elayne are close in any way, except that they've both wanted to bang, because they haven't talked about anything meaningful. They almost did just now. They almost formed an actual connection. But no, this is the cheapest form of relationship that you can have. And they're supposed to have a very close relationship. If you were gonna go for romance, at least make it a deep and meaningful one. But no, it's just banging. But I have wasted enough stress on this subject, so let's move on. Except I do have to point out that as we had in Season 1, Episode 1, with Egwene and Rand banging in the main hall of the inn, where anybody could have walked in and seen them, we now have Elayne and Aviendha banging in the upstairs balcony, where anybody could come up and find them. There's no door that they have closed to like, hey, we'd like some private time. Okay. In the next scene, we've got Rand and Egwene, and her jammies look so comfy.
I can get you one.
America, explain! Help me, I'm poor.
But anyway, she's dressing his wound, because remember when Matt stabbed him with this blade of Shia Ghul that left a permanent mark on his side? It still hasn't healed. It will never heal. She's patching him up. And he takes hold of her hand and notices the ring on her finger and remarks, Egwene Sedai, which he knows she has always wanted. And he's always been very supportive of her following her dreams, even though it hurt him. Because he's an awesome boyfriend, and she's a terrible girlfriend. Not following her dreams thing, but getting mad at him for being accepting of her going off and following her dreams. Why didn't you chase me? That was basically all of Season 1. It was her regretting pushing him away. And, oh gosh, never mind. Go watch my Season 1 reviews, because I talk about it a lot there. But this was also an opportunity for us to see this PTSD that she told us about earlier. She said that Rand touching me makes me think of Rhenna. But the thing is he holds her hand, okay? She's pleased by him calling her Egwene Sedai. And then she initiates a hug. She goes in to hold him. It's only when he puts his hand around her neck, I guess. When does he do that? Maybe they're into that sort of thing. I mean, we know Rand is, because of what we saw with him and Selene. Then they have a nice, meaningful conversation. You've got Rand asking, what was it like in the Arches? She's like, it was terrible, but, I can't tell you about what happened. And he's like, was I in there? And she's like, well, not exactly. And you can see that he kind of gets it. Like, he knows what she's not telling him. And she immediately says, I'm not afraid of you, to assure him. Like, this shows that they know what each other are thinking, so I like this. And then she assures him that I am with you until the end. I actually really like this. This is the first moment of likability in their relationship that I have ever seen. But what I am worried about is how it changes the reason for Egwene going with Rand to the Aiel Waste. So in the book, Egwene is knowledge hungry. She wants to learn more, and she will do anything to learn more. That's why she goes through the arches and does the whole thing at the tower, which they kind of sort of almost did before, except it was more about power as opposed to just she wants to learn. And here we've got her going with Rand to be with him. It seems like a protective thing, to protect him, to support him. So I do wonder if they're going to slowly try to transition her from that's why she's here to maybe she is tempted by the idea of learning about dreamwalking, which is what she's going to eventually do. She's going to, not dreamwalking, whatever. She's going to be able to go into dreams very well. That's going to be a very special skill of hers. And I'm wondering if they're going to have that introduced to her in the Aiel Waste, and then she's going to be like, wow, I can use this. This is really helpful. Or if they're going to try and keep doing this. The more she sticks with Rand, the more drama there is going to be with the other women who are supposed to be making moves on Rand. And the next one will be, or should be, Aviendha. We should be seeing Aviendha drawn to Rand, even against her will. When you fundamentally change people's motivations, it should change the course of their actions. And in order to make them follow the same actions, you have to change the situation around them. It's it involves way more change than what you could have kept if you just kept the motivation the same. Anyway, Rand is very touched by what she has said, and he puts his hands up on her like this to kiss her, and that's what gives her the PTSD. So as long as he doesn't do this, she's okay, is what I'm getting from this. But very compassionately, which is good for the Rand character, he always put how he affected other people first, or the risk he possibly posed to other people. And he's like, I'm so sorry. And she's like, no, it's fine. He's like, let's just sleep. And she's like, no, I want to try. And then she moves in on him first. So they bang off screen. And then we get to Nynaeve, who is laying in bed with Lan. He's out cold. In Perrin's room, we can see that Perrin and Loial are asleep in separate beds. And Perrin is apparently dreaming about when he killed the White Cloak General guy. And it's very odd, but there is an axe in a chopping block in their room. You do not chop wood inside your house, especially not in a bedroom. Why? Because splinters of wood go everywhere. And dirt, because typically when you're splitting wood, the dirt that was on the tree ends up all over the place. And I know this because I happen to pride myself on my wood chopping skills. But anyway. And then we cut to Moiraine, who appears to be in that same balcony area where Elayne and Aviendha are banging. Did they take it to some private room elsewhere? I guess. But she starts going downstairs, but thinks she hears something, and then she's like, oh, nothing, I guess. And then she keeps going, and we see someone is following her down the stairs. Nynaeve gets out of bed, and then we cut to Matt in the kitchen or the bar, I'm not sure where it is, and he's pouring himself some more wine. And Nynaeve startles him a little bit. She's like, so what happened to you? Because he's got scratches down his neck, and he's like, oh, gentleman never tells. This is nice. I actually really like this moment that's about to happen here, because this plays into the role that Nynaeve would have had in the Two Rivers that we didn't really see a whole lot of in the books, and I wanted to see more of it. So I like this. We have not seen Nynaeve being a mentor to the children at all in the show. And this is where we get her acting like a wisdom to these kids, even though she's only a couple years older than them. She goes, you can't pretend like nothing's going on. You are suddenly breaking out into the old tongue, which you don't speak. Your memory is all foggy and jumbled up, and you're clinging to that horn like some sort of a child. That's weird. There's nothing magical about Matt and the horn, other than he's bound to it in that he's the only one who can blow it and call the heroes of old legend. You get what I mean? He's the only one who can do that. There's a magical seal now. Since he blew it, it's his. But in the book, the dagger is the thing that is making him go bonkers. Not having Okay, oh, this is so good. We're convoluting a few things here. I would like to say that this is truncation, except what we have is there's something evil going on with Matt. And he knows it, he feels it, and that's why he ends up at the tower needing to be cured. And it's the dagger. The dagger is the thing. It's killing him, literally. But here, they're implying that it's the horn? Is that what they're doing here? I mean, Matt in this scene says that it's the horn, but we do know in the show that when he was with Ishamael, he drank this potion and he got to see all of his past lives, although we didn't see any of his past lives. That's not what happened in the book. It was him going through the arches and not the arches, this portal stones and seeing all of his past lives and all, oh my gosh, I'm not gonna try. The thing is something evil is supposed to be going on with Matt. And that is the dagger. Which, where is it, by the way? And I don't think the horn is supposed to be this thing that destroys his life, that makes it so he can't be effective as a protector or as a friend. And that's what we're going to be shown is happening to him. But yeah, this is actually really sweet, other than the things that I have wrong with it. Nynaeve was, going like, something's up with you, and what is it? And he goes, you know what, sometimes it's really hard to tell the difference between medicine and poison with you. And she goes, the difference is the dosage and the wisdom's patience. And he recollects that this is what the old wisdom used to say, usually after she had chased him out of her hut with a broom. And she goes, I became your wisdom after her, and I'm your wisdom now. Like, she's telling him, I'm going to be here for you. I can see that there is something wrong. As much levity as you are projecting on the world, I can tell that there is something deeply troubling you, and I want to be here for you because that is my duty. And I love this is very nice. I like this a lot. This actually makes Nynaeve look good. And he starts telling her what it's like. He's like, ever since I blew the horn, I just keep remembering things and hearing these things. And it's just, like cycling again and again and again. And you can see that he's even getting anxious talking about it. And she takes his hand very tenderly. Like, this is so nice. This is the nicest moment. This might be the nicest moment in the whole show. She tells him to close his eyes and tell her what he hears. And he says, I hear battle, people dying and suffering over and over and over again. It's terrible. And then he opens up his eyes and he says that some of them speak like us, but most of it's in old tongue. She asks him if it's real, and he goes, I think it was a long time ago, and asks her, will you help me, Nynaeve? And you can see that I don't think she was expecting that, but she immediately, in very book-like Nynaeve fashion, says, yes, I will help you. I don't know how, but I will try. I will do everything. Like, that's who she is. She's somebody who will do anything to help other people, try and help them out of whatever turmoil they're in, whatever suffering they have. She wants that to end. So that's good. That's good. And Matt thanks her. Then we see that Egwene is having a nightmare about Rhenna choking her, and then we've got her remembering the arches, Rand being all crazy. And she wakes up from that, but then she goes back down. And then we're back in the kitchen, and Matt is looking at his cards because he was sitting there playing with some cards, and he sees the cards starting to come to life. And this is an iconic moment in the books. I'll just describe what happens here first. But so Matt is like, are you seeing this? And Nynaeve is like, seeing what? She's not seeing what he's seeing. So whatever he's experiencing, only he can see it, which is unusual if this is supposedly what Lanfear is doing, which it is because she says later that the cards thing was her deal. How does she make it so that only he can see it? Is she in his mind? Can she go into people's minds and do this? I don't know. Anyway, then we get Egwene being woken up because Rand is on top of her trying to strangle her. And she goes, it's me, Rand. She thinks he's gone nuts. But then she looks over and Rand is asleep next to her too. Rand wakes up, tackles the other Rand, and one of them goes, Egwene, run. And then the other one looks at her and goes, Egwene, run. And Egwene jumps out of bed and summons the One Power to herself, obviously not knowing who to attack. Then we get to Perrin waking up just in time for the axe to come out of the wood thing right for him into the wall. And of course, Loial wakes up and they back away from the axe, but then the axe comes flying at Perrin, gets him right in the chest. Then we go down to the kitchen and we can see that Nynaeve hears the commotion going on upstairs, but there's a hooded figure walking towards her and she's like, Matt, something's up. And he's like not reacting. He's just staring down at his cards. And behind her, we see this hooded figure gets right up to her and stabs her right in the back. And they go off and they have a tussle, but Matt is just standing there staring at the cards. In the meantime, we're off into Moiraine and Lan's room, which Lan got up and went to Moraine's room. He was just in his room with Nynaeve, whatever. Anyway, he's with Moiraine in her room and he can hear Nynaeve crying out for help. And he looks over at Moiraine, like they know that the plan is in action. And Moiraine just looks at him and like, don't you dare go anywhere. She doesn't say that, but that's what her face says. This is so weird. Moiraine and Lan, especially being okay with working with Lanfear. Like neither of them should be okay with this at all. So in the Egwene Rand scenario here, we've got Rand wrestling with one Rand and then another Rand appears. Egwene saw him climb out of a mirror, and so she busts that mirror and that Rand disappears, but then another one climbs out of another mirror, and that one comes right after her and stabs her. And while she's wrestling that guy, she shouts over to the other, there's 3 other Rands on the other side of the room all wrestling with each other. She goes, Rand, it's the mirrors, and the real one stands up, summons the one power, and destroys the mirrors, and all of the fake Rands disintegrate. But he is sitting there, holding on to the one power channeling, and about to lose his mind, and she has to calm him down. Like, this is definitely not what Moiraine would have wanted. She would know that you have to keep Rand from channeling, like, at all costs. He cannot channel, because every time he does, we will lose more of him. We will lose the control of him. He will go mad. We can't let him go mad before the last battle. We need him to be as sane as possible at the last battle, and then we can kill him. In the Perrin, Loial, and Axe scenario, the axe is in Perrin's chest, but Loial is able to pull it out, but the axe is going nuts, and Loial's barely able to hold on to it, and he's like winding up to chuck it out at the door. But right then, the 2 Aiel girls, not Aviendha, open up the door, and Loial almost hits them, hurling it towards them. It slams into the wall. And then it comes flying right back at Perrin, getting him right between the fingers, and they pull it out of his hand, and his ring has been clove into what I can't speak. His ring's been split in half. The 2 Aiel women go up to the axe and they pull it off of him, but then one of them ends up pinned against the wall with the axe trying to choke her. The other one's trying to pull it off. The axe comes away from the wall, dragging one of the Aiel women, and then it's ripped out of her hand and it's hovering just above her. And just as it's about to chop her in half, Loial quickly grabs it, slams it into the stone, and breaks the handle. And apparently that will stop this axe from flying around. I mean, I don't know why the head couldn't keep going, but I would like to note at this point that Aviendha and Elayne did not wake up from any of this. They must have left the building. That's all I can think at this point. But yeah, Egwene tells Rand to calm down, let go, and he eventually is able to gain control of himself and let go of the one power. I don't know how she even knows that he's channeling, because that is something that the show has not established. Women cannot see men's channeling, and men cannot see women's channeling. Except for Logain, who can apparently see Nynaeve's, and I guess Egwene can see Rand's. The only one in the books who can see the channeling of the opposite sex is Rand, and he doesn't exactly see them. He's just barely aware that he senses something. The book was pretty explicit about that, so I don't know how the show plans to reconcile this. The last scenario we have is, other than Moiraine and Lan listening to all of the children crying and screaming and horrible things going on and doing nothing, you've got Nynaeve being stabbed over and over again by this assassin that has come in, this gray assassin. She's trying to fight, but she's like, nothing's working here. She is not winning this. And she keeps on shouting to Matt, help, Matt. And he's just staring down at his cards, like mesmerized. I don't know why that happened, but like, this is the opposite of what Matt would do, but obviously they're trying to say that something magical is happening here where he's like mesmerized. But the cards aren't exactly attacking him. So did Lanfear know if I do this, Matt is gonna be just like fixated so much on this he doesn't know about anything else going on? Like what did Lanfear do here? In the book, the cards actually come alive and like attack him. But anyway, so Nynaeve is dying, being stabbed again and again and again. I don't know how she's living this long. Like she's been stabbed a lot. And she's crying out for Matt. He's not doing anything. And she finally like, it's not working, and she calls out for Lan. And at last, Lan hears his name, which is amazing. He could differentiate between Matt and Lan. Like they both... Anyway, those names sound very similar when they are shouted out in a panic downstairs. He draws his sword, rushes down, obviously thinking he's going to find Lanfear, but she's not there. It's this gray man. And he very easily just walks up to the gray man and stabs him right through. And the moment that the blade goes through the gray man, you can see Matt, it snaps him out of all of this too. Now later we find out that Lanfear was not part of this gray man thing. So this gray man has some sort of an effect on Matt. We find out that the gray man thing is actually from Mogideon, whatever. Another Forsaken, the new one, the spider one. I don't know what the show is trying to imply is going on here, but I don't know. Maybe I'll figure it out in the future episodes, but I hope I don't remember this because it is very odd that killing the gray man makes Matt snap out of it. What was Lanfear's plan? The cards didn't attack him. She was just gonna make them come to life and be animated, and he would be like, what, ooh? Okay. They should have had Elayne and Aviendha show up and like, what happened here?
What happened?
Okay, so Matt's going like, Nynaeve, oh my gosh, what the hell happened? Like he doesn't know what's been going on, fine. But Moiraine comes running in and starts healing Nynaeve immediately. And she looks over at Lan, like, I don't know what her face is supposed to be saying, but it should be saying, oops, we fucked up. But Lan's face, he looks like, Moiraine, I'm gonna kill you. Oh my gosh. He should be so mad at Moiraine right now. He should want to kill her at this point. Like, and he looks like it. The actor is doing good job. Oh my gosh, okay. Oh. But yeah, Nynaeve says what everybody's supposed to be thinking at this point, which is, they found us, haven't they? The Forsaken have found us. I mean, Lan should feel so guilty at this point. It doesn't make sense for what was happening in this episode. Rand was so worried about the Forsaken and the Black Aja and the White Tower and Aes Sedai and Siuan, like, and yet here they are in Tar Valon, but it takes the Forsaken showing up. You know what? That's too many. We're out of here. Okay. I definitely don't understand why Rand doesn't know that the Forsaken, yes, they already know that we're here, because he has been telling Moiraine that Lanfear's been visiting him in his dreams. So she knows where he's at, right? Or wait, he hasn't figured that out yet, has he? Maybe, okay, all right, I'll give him that. He hasn't figured out that Lanfear can literally find out where he is in the world through the dream world. We get Moiraine and Lan storming off down the city, and they meet up with Lanfear, and they're like, you went a bit far. She's like, psh, axe, cards, some mirrors. I thought I played my part brilliantly. What was her plan with the cards? To clarify this, in the books, as the Dark One is breaking out of his prison, there are these, they're described as bubbles, but it's basically like a shockwave of the Dark One's influence going out into the world. And when it comes upon the Ta'veren, it attacks them. It causes chaos and bizarre, weird things like this to happen. It's evidence of him emerging. I'm on book 6, and I'm expecting we're going to get more and more and more of these going forward, because it is him coming out. It is the proof that he's closer. I don't know how the one power can do the things that Lanfear had happening. I mean, if you can make somebody come out of a mirror and stab somebody, why haven't the Forsaken been doing this to attack everybody all the time? Why didn't Lanfear do this to get Moiraine away from Rand earlier? She wanted them separate. There were plenty of mirrors in Moraine's sister's house. Why didn't she just make one of Moraine's come out of a mirror and stab her? That could have worked. this is where fantasy world building has to be defined, because now I believe that anybody could have been doing these things before, and I'm asking, why hasn't anybody done this before? She could have killed Perrin with the axe if this is what she did. She could have done all of this and told Rand it wasn't me, and he probably would have believed her. I mean, in the book, actually, she's around when this stuff happens, or stuff, no, not this, but the gray man thing. And she's like, dude, I did not send a gray man here. That was not me. Well, so Lan says, no one was supposed to get hurt, and Lanfear's like, shh.
Nothing a little healing couldn't take care of.
If you can't take a little bloody nose, maybe you ought to go back home and crawl under your bed.
You wanted it to be convincing.
You almost killed Nynaeve.
Everything that happened is your fault.
I wasn't the only one.
You knew it was wrong and did it anyway. You have nobody to blame but yourself.
And he goes, Nynaeve was almost killed. And she's like, I didn't touch Nynaeve. And he's like, she was stabbed 11 times. Oh my gosh, 11 times with that big dagger? How is she still alive? I mean, after just 3 of those stabbings, like I could give somebody maybe 2 stabs, but 3, I don't think she'd be able to cry out for help. I don't think she'd be able to continue fighting unless the guy was just sitting there going like this. I could see that, but he wasn't doing that. They were wrestling and struggling, and she was fighting. She was holding him off for the most part.
Look at her biosigns. Her adrenaline levels are through the roof.
Well, he's about to draw this power-wrought sword. But what, like he's going to kill Lanfear? If anybody can kill a Forsaken with a power-wrought blade, anybody would kill them with a power-wrought blade. They're not that scary then. She's like, stabbed 11 times? By who? And Moiraine goes, an assassin, gray eyes, blackened fingers, walked right through the inn and nobody noticed. Well, that's what happens when you walk into an inn at night. Nobody notices. I did not, from the show, get the impression that the gray man was hard to see. And in the book, they are very difficult to perceive. It's almost like they are not part of this world anymore, and yet they are still in it somehow. Anyway, Lanfear is like, really freaked out and goes, oh my gosh, it's a gray man. Only one person can make gray men. Apparently it's not the dark one, it's Moghedien. But she tells them to get Rand out of the city now. So the plan is off. Whatever it was to separate Rand from his friends, no more, just get Rand out no matter what. Okay. The next morning, we've got Rand and Perrin and Mat and Egwene and Nynaeve all talking. But Rand goes, this happened because of me. The Forsaken are gonna come for me, so I need to leave now. Elayne and Aviendha are still not back, and it's morning. Where are they? They're conveniently not in the building for some reason. But Nynaeve says, I'm not gonna be able to go with you. She has realized, like, I'm completely worthless in a fight. I can't help you. I am just a liability. I need to stay here and figure out what the hell's going on. I gotta go back to the White Tower, and they need to help me to solve my block.
No, I want to start helping us. First sensible thing you've said all day, Frank.
Which she kind of figured out on her own with a little bit of help from Siuan, who sort of was like, oh, it looks like you need anger. Like, your anger is a way for you to get past this. And then you see Nynaeve kind of working with that through book 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. Mat says that he's going to stay too, that if anybody can fix him, it's going to be Nynaeve, so that's why he's going to stay. And Rand comes up and he doesn't do the weird shoulder, like, hand wipe thing, but it's a shoulder thing. I like that they have a gesture. The wipe thing is weird, though. And Rand looks to Perrin, who's looking down at his ring, which he's got the pieces in his little cloth. And he goes, you're going home. And Perrin's about to apologize, but he's like, don't be sorry. Like, this is my deal, not yours. Perrin has been done dirty in this show. He doesn't leave because he's homesick or he feels like he's not part of this. He goes home because the people are in trouble and he knows it's because of him that they're in trouble. So he's gonna go and take responsibility for that. And Rand turns to Egwene and is like, you're gonna stay at the tower too? And she's like, I told you no, I'm not going anywhere. And he touches her in the way that he knows that triggers her PTSD, and for some reason it doesn't trigger her PTSD, but like it's bad on it not triggering her PTSD. I mean, I guess she kind of reacts weird, but definitely bad on him because he should know by now when I do this, it's not good for her. So It's not that hard. Find out that your partner doesn't like something, you don't do it. Maybe you forget once, but you're forgetting at this point. You should know better. Then Loial comes in to where Perrin is, I don't know, moping by himself and says, hey, all your stuff's ready to go for your journey home. As if Perrin is going by himself. But then the two Aiel women come in and one of them says, all right, I'm going with you because I owe you tow. Like she owes Loial for saving her from the axe that was going to come and smash her in the head, but then he caught it. And then the other Aiel goes, I go where she goes, which I like that. That's good. In the book, they take the ways. Loial goes with them because he's the one who can navigate the ways. So I don't know if they're going to go through the ways here. It would be weird since you need to channel to open the ways, and Loial can't channel. Unless they're going to reveal there's also another way to open them. In which case, if there's another way to open them and it involves a key, why didn't they use a key at the center of town? Okay, wait, I can see a way around this. Like, why did they not use a key in episode 6, or is it 7? It was 7 of the last season where Moiraine took Rand and, Lan was with them. They go to the arch and, or not the arch, the gateway. And Lan is like, Moiraine, you can open the gates. Why didn't they look for a key there? Maybe the Aes Sedai don't know anything about the key, but the builders do. The Ogiers know that these way gates have secret keys. If I had gotten this script and said you need to bring it back to the book, that's what I would do. I would have Loial know where the secret key is, and then he's like, even the Aes Sedai don't know about this. Even though that does mean that Loial kept it a secret the first time that they all went through the ways together and were almost killed by Machin Shin. So he was willing to risk everybody's lives, I guess. Whatever. Then we get Nynaeve coming in to console Lan, who does seem upset that Nynaeve is staying and he has to go. But he's like, she's like, oh, I'm sorry about this. And he's like, don't be upset. I mean, he should know he deserves this for several reasons. The first one being that, yes, as he mentions in this scene, he left her last time. It was his choice to leave her. And the second thing being, he is the reason why she's choosing to stay. Because he plotted with Moiraine and Lanfear to get them all attacked so that she... okay, maybe she wasn't part of the plan. Like you said, you weren't supposed to hurt Nynaeve, or Nynaeve wasn't supposed to get hurt. So originally, the plan was for him, she's coming with me. Like, he's mad that the plan didn't go as he planned, where he still gets to keep the girl. But I thought that Moiraine thinks that she's a Ta'veren. Does she not think that anymore? So it would have been okay for Nynaeve to go with Rand away to wherever the hell they're going. They're going to go to Tyr in her mind, but they don't. Okay. Is the show just going to ignore that they said at the beginning of this series that Egwene and Nynaeve are Ta'veren? They haven't really defined what Ta'veren are, though, so... There's a nice little tender moment where Lan asks with a gesture, give me your hands, and he puts a real fat ring in her hands. And he's like, this was my mother's ring. Dang, your mother, she was gaudy. Some women like the bling. I mean, I wore this specifically for this moment to show that, you can have a nice little pretty dainty ring like this. That's far more practical for a woman to wear than something that sticks out this far. Just saying. But he tells her that this is a ring that has been worn by the most powerful women in Malkier history, and there is no other woman I want as my queen. So he's basically pledging himself to her. Very sweet. In the book, there is a good, strong reason for him not giving the ring to her right away, and him doing so when he does. But this is, because of what the show has done, this is fine. This is fine. At least he gave it to her. I was half expecting that he wouldn't. They share a lovely kiss, and then we're back down in the dining room. And oh look, Elayne and Aviendha are back. No reaction from them, going like, what happened to you guys? Aviendha and Elayne share a parting, I hope our paths meet again. And Elayne is like, I would like that. And we don't even get to see Elayne hug Rand. That's in the background. Okay. I guess that the pattern is not weaving them together yet. Everybody's hugging and going their separate ways. Perrin, Loial, and the two Aiel are some of the first to go, and we get one of the Aiel girls winking at Matt, which I thought was cute. You know, now that I thought about it, I totally get why Perrin wants to leave. All the men in this house got laid or flirted with except him, even Loyal.
Let me see if I can get this straight. All the lust coursing through this lodge tonight. All the hormones virtually ricocheting off the walls. And no one was chasing me. See you at breakfast.
Nynaeve tells Rand to never forget who he is, no matter who he becomes. And I have to appreciate the show making the joke that everybody talks about in the fandom, which is that the White Tower looks like a penis. It does. But Matt and Nynaeve and Elayne go off, and then next we see Rand and Aviendha and Egwene leaving, and Rand and Egwene are commenting basically like, hey, I thought you would go with, the other Aiel, or Egwene's like, I thought you'd go with Elayne. And she's like, my duty is to the Karakarn. They get to the dock and Moiraine's like, I've paid the dockmaster. We're going to get to Tyr we'll be there in about a week. And Rand is like, we're not going to Tyr. Lan is so pissed off. I'm just like, I made a deal with the devil. I lost my girl. The Forsaken are going to come after you no matter where you are. But much to Aviendha's surprise, Rand says, we are going to go someplace that the Forsaken would never suspect, a place where I can get an army. We're going to go to the Aiel Waste. And Moiraine looks like, oh no, I'm losing control again. Like, she didn't get what she wanted here. Like, hopefully she's starting to learn the lesson that she has to let go. She has to let the pattern go. Like, let it do its thing. It'll make things work out. But I'm sure she's also confused based on what Verrin said to her. Like, trust the dragon, but don't trust the dragon. Anyway, we get a final closing scene of Mogidi and whatever, the weird spider one, torturing what appears to be a white cloak up in her web. So it's hard for me to tell exactly what they're saying. I don't have subtitles for this, but it sounds like this guy up in the web is saying, I did what our master asked me to do. I did what the Dark One asked me to do. And for some reason, Mogidi, whatever, is saying, do you know what happens when we break our oaths? We lose our souls through death, but if you ask for it, you become something else. Something not light, not dark, but gray. So she asks him if he wants to be gray, and he says no. And then she starts freezing his blood, and he's like, no, stop, no. She's like, do you want to be gray? He's like, I don't want to be gray. But then she goes, I'm only going to ask one more time. And he finally says yes. And so then she, casts his soul out of him. And he appears to be dead, but then he wakes up, but it's obviously not him. And then she does this really weird thing where she sticks her fingers in his mouth and appears to get off, and then looks at her fingers in fascination. Okay. But she goes, you're mine now. I have someone I need you to find. Okay. Anyway, it was creepy and gross and weird, but she's a villain, so I'm actually kind of okay with that. How this is handled in the book, I haven't got to if this is possible, as I said, but I don't know. I hope she's going around making tons of these gray men, because if she makes 50 of them, then she can easily go and get the Taveran, because one of them was able to sneak in and almost kill Nynaeve. Just make 10 of them and have them attack the White Tower, take out all the Aes Sedai in their sleep, and including Nynaeve, right? Right. That should be it, right? Anyway, I'm not gonna closing thoughts on this episode. There was a handful of good things, but it was so much telling. It's ridiculous that we're at this point and we're doing this much telling. Maybe they'll get better for episode 2. That's entirely possible, because they had to use this episode to tell us about everything that has happened between the end of the last episode of season 1 and season whatever. They had to tell us what happened between seasons. So there we go. I'm exhausted. My head hurts. We'll get to the next episode. I don't know. Hopefully this one came out in a timely way, but it all depends on how quickly I can get that fight scene one out. I don't know. Well, whatever. Anyway, please like, subscribe, and comment, even if it's just with an emoji. It's a free way to support this channel, or if you're feeling super generous, check out my Patreon, Ko-fi, or hit the money heart thanks button down below. You can become a subscriber, or you can leave a one-time tip. Any help is much appreciated. That's it. Be good to yourself.